Why, hello there. Welcome back to the Random Show, episode number 52. 52 of the Random Show with your host, AgostinhoZinga. I'm 6 minutes late as per usual. Sorry for making you hang around. My dearest apologies, but I had to prepare myself a little coffee. And of course, I had to prepare it just as I was about to go on stream because clearly my time, the things I do and also I think my time management skills are not exactly what they should be. But it doesn't matter. I'm here right now, right in front of you. Happy you could join me. It's a random show. We're back again with random things to talk about. You know how it is. Most of it's going to be centered around all the LA comedy stuff, but we're going to have some other topics we're also going to run through and have a good time with. My chat is all the way over there. I don't know why. I need to move it right now. Please bear with me. I seen it will creep over into my flipping lane, and that's not what it should be. It should be over there. There we go. Nice and clear. Nice and clear. So yeah, big up everybody that's joining in. Big up everybody's going to be coming in later on. If it's your first time checking out the stream, make sure that you smash that like button as you're going along and you're listening to the stuff that I'm saying and you're having a good time. Make sure you let people know by smashing that little like button. If you're not having a good time, of course, feel free to hit the dislike button. I'm more than happy to, to receive all the dislikes. Do whatever you can. Just engage with the content. That's all I ask. Just engage with the content. Engage with the mobber content. You know the vibes. You know the vibes. What we're going to talk about today, many things, as you see in the title. We've got many things to run through, but as per usual, it's a random show. It's going to be topics to start off with that are going to be a bit, not really connected to anything, and then we're going to dive into all the comedy stuff. So if you come in just late, don't worry, you haven't been catfished, you haven't been hoodwinked, or hoodwinked, as I might say. It's going to be good. You're going to like the things I'm going to talk about. You're going to enjoy some of the clips. You might actually throw up in your mouth with some of the clips. You might want to smash your laptop, but don't worry, we're just having fun. And as per usual, disclaimer for all this stuff, we're just having jokes on here. I've never in my entire life again, I've been a fan of these guys, right? I was a fan of TFATK. I was an OG fan from Fox days, but I never, even back then, went on their social media profiles and left them comments, either in praise or in disgust. I never did that. I just enjoy the content that they put out. I analyze it the way I want to analyze it. I talk about how I want to talk about it, but then I just leave it and go about my everyday life. I don't engage with them outside of it. I don't really care about it outside of that. Whatever they put out as content-wise, I'll talk, but anything else is extra. So please watch this show for your own entertainment, but do not under any circumstances go on any of these guys' pages and leave them hate comments or leave them, disparaging comments or insult them in any kind of way, because I really do think, personally for me, I'm a big fan of the Fighting the Kids subreddit. I really am. It's about 90k strong, but I have to be honest, the thing that I find the lamest about it is when people kind of celebrate that they've been blocked. Oh look, I tried to go on his profile and I can't access it. I wonder what's going on. Oh, he's really emotional, he's sensitive. It's like, yeah, of course, it's someone's social media platform. Don't go on someone's social media profile, talk rubbish, and then get surprised when they want to ban you or want to take you off there or don't want to see your crap. It's obviously going to happen. And I think personally, just watch it from afar and laugh from afar, or I don't know, whatever. Just be creative, but in general, just don't do it. Just leave them alone for the most part. I don't think you need to go on their profiles and start attacking them. It's just not necessary. So I think everyone should just chill out and just enjoy the content for what it is. Please enjoy the content for what it bloody is. But anyway, that aside, because I sound like I'm your flipping dad and I'm not your dad because I don't care. If I was your dad, I'd be the kind of dad that, goes out to go get some milk and never comes back. So I don't really care too tough. So, it's not my life. You do what you want to do, but I'm just giving you that little disclaimer there at the top. But big up everybody in the chat anyway joining in. I do appreciate you. Big up Proven 187 as per usual, my guy. Big up Keith McFloyd, my guy. Mod Soler, my guy. Big up James Biconi, my guy. Space Kai, Tobar, Nerdscape, Vanilla Sky, Alex Knox, everybody's in the building having a good time. So we're gonna get started. As per usual, actually, I'm gonna people are calling me dad in the chat. Nah, don't you flipping dare, mate. Don't you dare. I've always actually wondered, I wonder if I've got any like offspring running around there that no one told me about, knock up a lady, go raw dog on somebody on a night out, and then you never know, there's some little bambino of mine like running around the streets of flipping, Budapest or something. that I have no idea about. Do you know what I mean? Living his absolute life. But if he or she's out there, do you? Don't call me. All right, I don't have any money. Just do you out there. I'm not a beast of a dad like Brendan. I'm not a beast of a dad. I'm a horrible dad. So you just stay over there. I'll stay over here. But no. Big up everybody in the stream chat. I was just thinking, what was I thinking? Oh yeah, I was just thinking. So I just made myself a little cold espresso, obviously, to keep myself going. But we still have the beer fund going, so make sure you donate to the beer fund if you feel generous. I'm actually gonna go out on the Friday. I'm heading out to this new place in Brick Lane called Workhouse. It's like this new nightclub that I've never actually been to, and it's gonna feature this dude called Finn Johansson, who's a really popular sort of like a music journalist too in the dance music scene, and he's going to be DJing at this club that I've never been to in Brick Lane, which is not too far from where I live. So I will most likely be indulging in the two substances that you see below in that donations bar. So if you want to, sponsor the kid and get him nice and wasted, then feel free. But I'm just going to show you here on the screen what the place is going to look like. This is it. I'm going to this place called Workhouse on Friday night. It's going to be nice. I'm going to go see this guy play specifically. I know he doesn't look really cool. I know he looks like someone's dad, weirdly enough, right? Can you see this? This guy looks like someone's dad, actually. But I'm actually going to go see him play. He's really good. He's got a night in Berlin called Powerhouse that he does at this really famous club called Palomas. And I went there, a few months back, and it was absolutely banging. It was him and this guy called DJ Pete playing. And it's mostly like, I'd describe it like house, Italo disco, electro kind of vibe, right? Susie and the Banshees type stuff. What would you call it? That sort of vibe, right? Susie and the Banshees, edits and remixes and whatnot. So I'm really good, looking forward to it. And of course, it's in Brick Lane, so I can easily cycle there and cycle back. There's nothing better, honestly. Nothing beats cycling back home from a club. Honestly, you sober up, you're a bit tipsy, you're listening to your music in your headphones, or sometimes you're just listening to the breeze rush past your ears as you hurtle down the street, hoping that you don't hit a car and go flying like some clip on Reddit. It's absolutely one of my favorite things to do. I know it's probably not the smartest thing to do, but luckily I'm not driving. Luckily I'm just cycling. I'm cycling a little fixed gear bike right at night. Oh, there's going to be a young lady playing there in latex, I see. But these are all the supporting people playing also. But the main person I'm going to see is obviously Finn Johansson. He obviously on Friday. So that is the vibe. That is the vibe. Anyway, enough about my weekend, because that's not what you're here for. You're here to laugh at comedians and get a bit giddy. Hopefully you guys like the sound. I think the last stream I messed up, sorry. I plugged in this microphone, but I didn't actually change the settings in flipping Streamlabs, so all the mic sound was coming through my laptop, so the sound was absolutely garbage. So for you guys on the stream that were saying, oh, the sound's really good, it's really clear, you're all full of crap, because the sound from the last stream was coming through my microphone on my laptop, and none of you guys have noticed. So this time I've switched it, and now all the sound's coming through this microphone that I'm speaking into right now, so you can hear that clearly. Hopefully it's loud enough and stuff and you're enjoying it. And if it's not, make sure you let me know. Make sure you let me know and I'll give it a little bit of a bump. But if it's okay for now, I'll just keep continuing. But if it's not okay, make sure you do let me know, because I don't want to hear this back later and hear myself sounding like I'm shouting for a flipping, tin of baked beans or something. Muy annoying. But anyway, regardless, let me take a little sip of my drink and then we'll continue on. And luckily for this too, I don't have a horrible mute button, because someone left me a comment and said please don't mute the mic again because it sounds so aggressive, the click clack clack. So I'm just going to mute it on my Streamlabs, have a sip, and we'll get started on the show. Yeah. Woo, that felt good. That felt bloody good. All right, let's get going. So first thing I want to get into that I thought was of some level of interest. Have you guys seen that the guy called 6ix9ine is now currently in flipping Russia, performing and going on tour and stuff and having the whale of a time, right? He's on stages and stuff, mucking around, frolicking around St. Petersburg and doing whatever he needs to do out there. And it made me think, considering all the issues that he has for his safety, especially in North America, or especially in the places that he's kind of had beef with other rappers in terms of Chicago, Atlanta, maybe LA, why doesn't he just permanently move and relocate to Europe anyway? Or even live in a place like Moscow, or live somewhere like in Central Europe, or whatever it may be, or maybe somewhere nicer like Spain or Italy or France. Because I always thought someone like 6ix9ine will have a pretty decent following in Europe anyway, because of the kind of music it makes. Because there's a lot of people in continental Europe who kind of make the similar sort of like trap that speed trap sort of like horrible sounding music that he does, right? The person I can think of straight away is this Italian rapper. I think he might be from Naples or Napoli. He's called Packy, funnily enough, right? And it's Pakky, right? Hey, big up. We got a donation there from James Bicone for $3. You are a legend. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Maggie. So there's this guy called Packy who's quite similar in terms of his sound and his kind of approach. So I'm wondering why 6ix9ine doesn't just do the same thing and just relocate. He would have loads of people to collaborate with. His safety wouldn't really be in question because no one who's really part of that case that he snitched on, or the people, the rappers that he kind of gets out, or the dead rappers he gets out, no one really is connected to them in Europe. So you'll be perfectly okay and just kind of live your best life. I guess maybe it's different if you're American. Maybe most Americans don't really care. I wonder in the chat. Can you let me know in the chat? If you're American, would it be like a nightmare for you to move to Europe? Like, would that be like literally like going to live in a gulag? Would that be the equivalent to it? Because I don't know why he just doesn't come here and just have a good time. Like, he could live really well. He makes a lot of money. Most people here speak English anyway, especially if he goes to places like Russia and stuff. You know, not most places, but he could basically get around pretty well. Again, safety wouldn't be an issue. He can make tons of cash, hook up with loads of girls, you know, do whatever he needs to do and basically reinvent himself. I wonder, if you're American, would you ever move to Europe if that was the case, if you were him? No, that would be great. He's just not a smart person. Yeah, because I don't get why he just stays there. And I know maybe it's part of his brand because he likes to antagonize people, but staying somewhere where legitimately, like, it feels like if he stays in America and he ends up dying, there will literally be a celebration on the streets, on the, you know, in the ghettos of every kind of hood that he kind of dissed, from O Block to flipping, you know, whatever Crips and Bloods are that he kind of insulted. They're going to have a flipping festival. There's going to be street parties. There's going to be themed nights of him when he dies. You know what I mean? It's going to be that crazy. People are going to probably put posters of his dead body and flyers and stuff. So if that's the case, just go and move somewhere else where you can just have a regular life and kind of live into your old age and not have any issues. But I think, I have a feeling, you know, he's probably super tied to America. But anyway, the reason why I bring it up is because of this video that I thought was incredible. As people saying here, as an American, I wouldn't have an issue moving to EU. Big ups, he'll become irrelevant even quicker if he did. US, UK sometimes. Yeah, that's a really good point, in it. 187 Proven. If he does move to Europe, he would be pretty much invisible to the American audience, because you American guys, you don't give a F about us European actors at all, unless you're really big. No one really cares about us. Serge says here, bro, I'm American and I have family in Europe and I've visited several times, but there's no way in hell I would move there. Too cold and the women are not impressed by Americans and it's also expensive. Very good point. Very, very good point. Especially if you're used to LA or used to New York, whatever, just majority of places in US, unless you're Middle America, you're used to far better weather than we have. Probably the food as well. I hear a lot of Americans complaining about the food in the UK. You guys don't like our food here at all, which is funny because when I went to the America last, which was New York in like 2008 or 7, the first thing I remember that I didn't like was the bread. The bread was really sugary when I went to America. Like, even just regular bread you get from the shop, not even like stuff you get from like a bodega, like regular bread in like a packet or a loaf or whatnot. I found it super sugary, like unnecessarily so. And I didn't really like the chocolate. I thought the chocolate tasted incredibly artificial compared to what we have here. But in general, Americans tend to hate European food. Every artist I follow online who comes to Europe, the first thing they complain about is the food. Famously, obviously, being Tyler the Creator, he'd come in just like be struggling to eat a good meal because he's so used to a certain type of food over there. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's the case, but I don't know. If forget all that food stuff, I just think in terms of safety, in terms of being alive and being able to enjoy your riches and your money, why not just move somewhere where you can be safe? But then, you know, I guess probably part of the reason why he's alive in the first place and he wants to live is this kind of whole push and pull of your life's at risk, your life's at risk, your life's at risk. So maybe that's the whole nature behind it. But anyway, the point why I brought it up was this. There's a clip of him in the middle of Russia, basically, you know, taking the piss out of the Brittany Griner situation, which doesn't make any sense because I don't know what he has to do with it. But I guess, you know, 6ix9ine is always going to 6ix9ine in it. So this is him essentially saying F Brittany Griner, which is really, really strange. But anyway, let's hear it anyway.
Yo, Sal, yo, Yosef, you know we out here. Shit's crazy.
Moscow, Russia, brother.
Fuck Brittany Griner.
I got the t-shirt. I got the t-shirt for you too, bro.
Yo, Sal, yo, Yosef, you know we out here. Shit's crazy.
Moscow, Russia, brother.
Fuck Brittany Griner.
To be fair though, he didn't really say it with his chest. You know what I mean? He just said it really quietly. He kind of whispered it. and that's about it. But he didn't really say it with his whole chest. Eddie D, do you think she really deserves to be there, like in that situation? I know you're not meant to take, she's probably idiotic and dumb to take the flipping vape there anyway. It doesn't matter if it's the whole thing. People say, oh, it's only a small bit, it's only a fight, whatever. It doesn't matter how small, big it is. Just don't take it. But the way that she's been used as some political pawn between United States and America, the United States government and the Russian government, has been pretty sad to watch. Essentially, her life is basically being used as a political pawn, and she's having to suffer for it off the back of it, which is pretty, egregious to say the least. But of course, she put herself in that position. If she didn't take the fucking vape there, she would have been perfectly fine. But I feel like it's really, really unfair. How long did she get in terms of her sentence? Was it like a year or like 2 years? How long did she get in prison over there? Imagine, man. Imagine going over there and accidentally, or I don't say accidentally because I don't think she did accidentally do it, but thinking you could get away with doing what you usually do when you go on your little cross country trips on your plane or maybe to Europe. People don't really mind if you have a little vape or whatever it may be, but you go to places like Russia and they are searching your stuff for real, and that happens and you're just panicking. Your heart is beating. She got 9 years. Oh my god. Look, man, it's harsh, but anyway, look, I could just continue. This is 6ix9ine, and he looks way more happier than I've seen him in a long time. Here's him in Russia again, having a blast. Hope it load. Come on.
All right, what the fuck are you wearing, dude? No, seriously, you're performing that, or is this a joke?
No, I mean,
you look. I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you. You look horrible. All the fans are gonna leave.
Let's go.
Bro, I'm gonna post a picture of this.
No, wait. We were broke on this trip. We're balling on a budget.
We were broke on this trip, but I'm saying all the fans are gonna leave, bro. They'll be like, this is Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Look at my shoes.
You're performing in this?
Bro, it's the hotel slippers.
All right.
Don't get me wrong, don't enjoy the kid's music, but he literally looks a lot happier, and I don't understand why he just doesn't move here and have a good time. Just come here and have a good time. And look, clearly again, the show looks like it was packed out, loads of fans there enjoying themselves, him dancing, Steve will do it dancing. Yeah, that's basically my point. I just don't know why he doesn't move over there. I don't get it. But I guess, in a way he kind of feels like somebody has a death wish anyway. I feel like, maybe he feels like that's his what's it called? That's his karma or his retribution in some way, shape or form for putting all those guys in jail who he was actively in a gang with and happily took part in stuff with. And then in the end, when he got scared, he ended up snitching all of them. It's just brutal, isn't it? That's the thing that's actually brutal about it. Like, he was actually going on like he was Teflon. He was walking around the streets of New York and just parts of America and just antagonizing people, like basically egging them on to try him so that he could get his, like, he was basically doing, that thing that people do when they have like big older brothers or a brother that can fight. They're like, they want you to touch them and to push them or to say something bad to them so that they can get their brother on you, so that you can just go to town on you. Do you know what I mean? That's the real harsh part of it. The really harsh one, I think, I forgot who the kid is. I think it might be Kuda B, his name was. There was this kid in that group, right? In Treyway, right? That blood set that he basically paid to go and shoot at Chief Keef, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Chief Keef when he came to New York. So he paid this kid money. Hey, go shoot Chief Keef. I hate this guy. We're having beef. Go do the job for me. You know what gangs do. The guy goes to go do it. It's a drive-by. Obviously, doesn't kill Chief Keef, but, shots are rang out and whatnot. The kid gets arrested, and then, when it comes down to a trial, 6ix9ine snitched on the whole kid, and he went up doing, more years than he would have probably done if 6ix9ine didn't snitch on him. But which is why I don't get the American judicial system. You can pay for a hit on somebody, but then if you cooperate, you still get time off. Like, what? You plan to kill somebody? Do you know what I mean? Like, how can you get time off of that? It absolutely makes no sense, but it is what it is, isn't it? So, but yeah, let's see. Maybe someone in 6ix9ine's group will actually tell him, hey, maybe long term, you should just maybe stay here for 6 months, live in Romania, live in Russia, hang out with flipping Andrew Tate, record some content, live a good life, and then come back whenever we want in the US here and there. But I think him just hanging around the US and just doing that sort of stuff is just probably a bad look for him altogether. But hey, you know, maybe again, like I said, maybe that's part of the brand. That's the whole point that he's doing it, because he kind of wants to antagonize people and get under their skin in the hope that they do kind of flip out and do something to him. So he has another story to tell, and it adds to all the whole allure that he's kind of running with. I'm not really too sure. But anyway, yeah, exactly true. I was just thinking at myself, actually. Alex Knox said that Sammy the Bull killed over 30 people and got a deal. Absolutely insane, innit? And he's out here on podcasts fucking talking about respect and honor and dignity. It's like sometimes I watch these Italian mobster interview things on YouTube, and it's just hilarious, man. Hearing these like absolute degenerates, right? These absolute sociopaths, these essentially serial killers on podcasts, acting as if they like, I don't know, acting as if they're fucking Warren Buffett or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, most of these guys are just hired goons, especially goons around that in a time, in an era where, you know, there was no CCTV. They were able to get away with loads of stuff just because the technology wasn't what it is nowadays. And, you know, ever since they kind of come out of prison, been trying, quote unquote, reform characters, they've just kind of, if anything, tarnished their legacy, if anything. There's only one good one I like. I think is what's his name, the Sam Frazee one, the one that's like a super Christian now. He looks deadly. He kind of, the way he carries himself is like, you know, this guy has still got the capability. He's still got that thing in him that if push came to shove, he would end your life. Do you know what I mean? And happily do the time. That one, I think his name is Francesi or Francesi. Like, he's the one that comes across like an absolute boss. Like, you can tell he's touched a lot of money. You can tell he's put a lot of people on the ground. Like, he's done some dirt in his life, for real, for real. That's his name, yeah. Michael Francesi. Francesi, I think it's Francesi. Michael Francesi. Yeah, he seems like a top lad. But anyway, moving on. So before we do the flipping reveal of the whole, like, you know, Brendan Schaub flipping funeral fit, which is still blowing my mind. I'm trying to get my head around it, the funeral fit, but I'm going to try to be as fair as I can about that. Before we get into that, we need to talk about this article that came out in 2021, right? This is from Medium. And again, I picked this up from the Friday Kids, so I'm going to read it. Sorry, from the Friday Kids subreddit. So I'm going to read it here. And we're going to literally tear through a bit of it and, you know, speak about the things that we can speak about. Because I think this is pretty interesting, because it touches upon some stuff that I think kind of, we should maybe touch on. Oh, I got to sign in to read the first of it. Oh, man. Okay. Sign up or sign in. Okay, let me sign in quickly on flipping Medium. I hate how everything online now requires you to have an account. Everything has to have an account. Whether you're ordering food, whether you just want to read an article, whether you want to flip in, translate something, you know, even one thing I was using to flip in, you know, convert some fucking lengths and weights and stuff for the gym I was going to go to. They wanted me to start doing that too. What they're doing here now? Can't I just sign in? Didn't I sign in already? What's happening here, Medium? Can you not let me just sign in, please? Welcome back. No, create an account. No, I don't want to be welcome back. I don't want to create an account either. Can you just sign me in, and so I can just keep going? Oh, this thing is so annoying. Let's see here if I can go back here a little bit, because I do remember having a Medium account, but I think it was a long time ago when I actually used to read that shit, and now it's turned into fucking what's it called? What's that thing that everyone uses to write fucking newsletters? I think it's turned into that, and now it won't let me read it. Come on. If not, I'm just gonna chuck it into flipping archive and then just read it on some ghetto vibes. But I don't want to do that. I want to give this person some clicks. Okay, there we go. It's loading now. Are you gonna load, and you're gonna leave me alone? What are you gonna say? You gonna load or leave me alone? Let's see what it does. You have 2 more free articles to go. Blah 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 blah. Okay, cool. We're back now, ready to go. Finally, Jesus Christ, let's get my stuff off there so my email doesn't show. And yeah, ready to go. Finally. Okay, cool. So this article was written in 2001 by a lady called Ash Ryland. Or is that how you pronounce the name Ash? Why would you write your name as Ash but then have an E on the end? Is that an American thing? Like Ash with an E on the end, or is it Ashy? How do you pronounce that? Ashy or Ash? Anyway, Ash Ryland wrote this article about Brendan in 2021. Basically, it feels like just like a month, well, not a year to the day. Well, it's not really a year to the day, but still. It's funny though, because at the time that she wrote this article, the subreddit was at 44,000 users. Now it's near, I think it's just over 90k. So it's basically doubled in a year. And the funny thing, I was thinking about the other day, actually, I was like, you know what, which is actually interesting. He's actually become way more unlikable over that space of time, like frighteningly so. And I think a lot of it had to do with COVID. My theory is that a lot of it had to do with COVID. I think the COVID pandemic and the lockdown and whatnot kind of sped up the process of him being unliked. Because I think if COVID never happened and we weren't locked indoors and he didn't do that whole touring thing and catch COVID 30 million times and, you know, all that scandals that happened around that and the, you know, the backlash from that and everything else that transpired, I think he would have been pretty much fine. I don't think he would have got as bad as it got now. I think because of COVID, it kind of sped things up a little bit. So it's crazy to think that only last year the subreddit was at 44,000, mate. 44,000. Now it's at 90k. And if you think about it, you could say, right, that maybe in the beginning, let's say the first 30,000, maybe 20, maybe 10,000, right? Maybe 10. Let's say maybe 10,000. They were legit fans, or some fans mixed in with some quote unquote detractors, as DSP would say. But nowadays, I would definitely say the majority of people who are coming on that subreddit, especially when they're plus, especially when it's doubled, are definitely people who don't like the show, like for sure. Because there's no way if you like the show, would you spend your time on that Friday Kids subreddit, because they just spend all their time picking away at every little thing that they do and dissecting all the wrong things and highlighting all the wrong things. So there's no way you're doing it without that. And the other thing too, you have to understand too, I think, which is really interesting, is that for subreddit, or subreddits in general, you don't have to join them to read them. Most of them you could just read them and just have them as your bookmark. You don't need to join them. But I get the feeling that a lot of people join that subreddit in the hopes of actually commenting and actually lending their piece on it and actually, you know, offering their 2 cents on why this happened, on how come he's like asking questions or maybe clipping stuff. People actually want to participate. That's the actual worrying thing. If you're Brendan, you have to worry about, like, people enjoy, as you know, you can tell with myself, they actually do enjoy sitting, typing away and kind of talking about his life and whatnot and what he does with his career. It's pretty gnarly. You don't see this anywhere else. People are actively invested in it. And again, like I said in previous shows, I generally do think a lot of it has to do with the fact that people feel like his success is unearned. I feel like social media, or people in general on the internet, human beings, we have something in us that just can't put up with people who we feel like don't deserve their success for whatever reason. I don't know. It just is a thing, because I don't think he is... It's weird to say this again as somebody that kind of dissects a lot of this stuff. I don't necessarily think he's as bad as some of the coverage will make it seem as. He might, you know, he's a, you know, terrible human being, maybe questionable in terms of his, you know, how he treats his wife and whatnot, you know, whatever it may be. Again, that's not my business. I don't try and get into those kind of things. It doesn't sound like the bestest of friends, doesn't sound like the greatest of bosses, doesn't sound like the greatest son in the world or whatnot. I get it, but we've all got our things. But apart from those things, right, that I just listed, he hasn't really done anything that crazy. But still, he gets hate. Do you know what I mean? So there's something about the guy that's just like, it just turns people off for the most part. And I love it. It's fucking hilarious to watch. But anyway, let's dive into this girl's article and stop flipping burying the lead. So I thought this bit was pretty funny, right? We're just gonna continue going on it, right? It's like continues. So the first time I heard about Brendan Schaub and the homeless cats was back in 2019. I was having dinner with my boyfriend and he was laughing at his cell phone. I asked him what was so funny. Laughing harder, he explained that there's a subreddit that's devoted to his ex-MMA fighter who became a comedian. It's so funny. The comedian is funny, I asked. He said, no, all the Brendan's fans have turned into haters. There are over 6,000 subscribers and all we do is make fun of him. Oh my God, it went from 6,000 subs in 2019 to 44,000 in 2021. That's some how they call it in startups, that's some what they call it, exponential growth. That's exponential growth to the T. It continues. Well, that sounds mean, I would say, not understanding how 6,000 of the cyberbullies could find it funny. And that's me. I remember when I first joined the subreddit, I would always leave comments about, this is mean, you guys are going overboard, he's not that bad, he's not that bad. And people kept picking up. You know what, I recognize this, which is quite a phenomenon, which is quite interesting. The Fighting the Kid subreddit, the Fighting the Kid subreddit is very, very similar now to what's going on with Kalila Kuhn, right? Flipping thingamajiggy, Bobby Lee's ex-girlfriend. The same thing's happening with her, where the actual people who got it about Kalila were saying, oh, we're fucking, you know, sounding the alarm. This girl's a psycho. She's a psycho. Oh my god, she's manipulating him. She's not. It doesn't. It's not what it seems to be. She's, you know, got Bobby wrapped around a little finger. Blah 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 blah. And people like me who are just like casual observers, I didn't get the kind of stuff. I was like, you guys are going over the top. She doesn't seem that bad to me. If anything, she's helped Bobby Lee's career. Without her, would he have Tiger Belly? Would he have what's he got? The ginger thing he's got with flipping Andrew Santino? I don't know what I mean. Like all that stuff I was saying. But now I've watched a couple of documentaries and stuff. Even I'm starting to get why everyone kind of is attacking Kalila. And something, the same thing used to happen at the Fright and the Kids subreddit. When it was early in its inception, I used to not get the hate. I couldn't understand it. And then the more content you absorb of these people, the more you start to kind of see the things people are pointing out, you're like, you know what? Objectively, that guy doesn't seem like the nicest person. And the thing that makes it worse, I think, the thing that kind of adds to the overall disdain is definitely when he was in Joe Rogan's good graces. There seemed to be this kind of like culture of like how do you call it, this culture of like this culture of silence, basically, that operated around him, where because he was Joe Rogan's boy, no one wanted to say a thing. No one wanted to even acknowledge the fact that he might be a terrible person, and that made people like even weigh like, what the hell's going on here? This guy clearly is everything opposite that you guys talk about, but you kind of protect him just because he's Joe Rogan's friend. If he wasn't Joe Rogan's friend, you'd be absolutely ripping into him. But you know, comedians and having courage, having backbone, those are two things that don't go hand in hand. He continues, but as the months went on and my boyfriend continued to share more examples of Brendan Schaub's two-faced, narcissistic, lying, talentless and inauthentic character, it was impossible not to be marveled by how such an unlikable person could have fallen backwards into fame. And that's where I say, in my opinion, the main crux of the issue is with Brendan. I think most people can't wrap their heads around why somebody who's as unlikable as he is so successful, which is why I think, controversial opinion, he should be a YouTuber. I think YouTube is littered with people who are incredibly unlikable, but have a fan base of people who don't like them and hate watch them, and who people that like them and want to ride for them. I think of two people. I think of Ethan Klein. I think of Tana Mogo, right? Two people who I think are pretty much, you know, derided, I think, by their fan base. I think it's probably split 50-50 in terms of people that like them and don't like them, but they have an amazing career online. And I think if Brendan just pivoted and tried to be a YouTuber, he'd be pretty successful. I think he actually would, in my opinion anyway. Collabing with some of these people, going on their shows, I think he would actually work pretty well. But, you know, controversial opinion there. It continues. It wasn't just me who was swayed to join the hate wagon. In fact, as of today, there are now 44,000 subscribed homeless cats working diligently to expose Brendan Schuab, as they call them. And obviously you can see the graph here of the exponential growth. Now, before I begin, I must preface that I do not condone online bullying. Yeah, well, disclaimer. But the homeless cats aren't your typical cyberbullies. In fact, I'd call them vigilantes. Before I'd call them cyberbullies, but by definition, yeah, they're bullies, or haters as Schaub calls them. This community of homeless cats have bonded together for years, exposing Schaub's unsavory behaviors that might otherwise go unknown due to his overall irrelevance in the comedy and MMA and podcasting community. Just because he's irrelevant doesn't mean he's not important. In fact, I think that Schaub appears to be the perfect archetype for what is wrong with the influx of YouTube celebrities. Yes, I know his fame extends past YouTube. Schaub is the epitome of inauthenticity. A giant bully himself. Just ask Ariel Hawani, a Canadian MMA journalist who, after years of remaining silent while Schaub repeatedly insulted him in his podcast, has finally begun fighting back, joining the homeless cats in their mission to expose the phony. This is why I ask that before you reflexively feel the need to condemn or report the subreddit that this is built on hating and bullying a grown man, please hear me out. This subreddit is filled with heroes, hilarious heroes who deserve a place in the world of comedy more than Schaub. This woman's going in. Now, if you like me and don't follow the MMA world, you might be wondering who even is Brendan Schaub. That goes into him background. Obviously, it goes into the NFL thing, blah, 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 blah. And the thing I wanted to talk about, which I wanted here, was, where was the bit? Oh, I think it was here. I think it was the quote was realized. I think you spell realized with the Z in America, don't you? Weirdos. There we go. Here it is. Sis. Yeah, this is the one, right? Talk about being unlikable. Let's take a walk down memory lane. Why are these cyberbullies actually vigilantes? If you're still not convinced Schaub is a bad person, let's go through some of his more despicable instances, right? This is fucking gnarly, because even I forgot about this. The moment I realized Schaub needed to be exposed was 8 months ago, when his pregnant girlfriend shared an Instagram post explaining that she had just had a miscarriage and lost their baby. That same day, while she was in the hospital, Schuab shared a now deleted photograph of him in a hot tub with his quote unquote boys with a Z on his Instagram. When I heard about a man partying with his boys in a hot tub while his girlfriend sits in the hospital traumatized by the loss of their unborn child, I was appalled. Before that moment, I thought that homeless cats were overreacting to Schaub, but if anyone deserves a Worst Boyfriend of the Year award, it's him. Now, you know the funny thing about this is that I didn't know he deleted that picture. I remember the picture. I think it was in an Airbnb. I think they were in a hot tub that was in an Airbnb outside, right? No, sorry, the hot tub was outside, and it was on a sort of stairs thing, like a wooden thing, and it was really small, or they're really big. I guess they're all really big, right? So they're all kind of crammed in there. I think it was Brendan, his brother Jay, and at that time Chappelle, when he was still part of the show. And they were kind of all relaxing in the hot tub, and I remember it being shared at the time, because I think at the same time he uploaded that, his wife or girl, whatever he likes to call her, she posted a picture of her arm, with getting flipping drips or whatnot in the hospital, and basically writ something kind of cryptic or kind of loosely explaining it. But then the other thing also that I remember correctly, if I'm not yeah, exactly, in Wooden Decking there, exactly, probably no 17 remembers. The other thing I remember too, if I'm not mistaken, was that didn't Brendan get some sort of tattoo that was like a smiley face to commemorate the loss of this child, this miscarriage? Don't you guys remember that? It was some sort of tattoo. It was some sort of weird thing that he got. He does these things I don't know, getting pictures of his kids as dead zombies or something. I don't know. There was a tattoo of some sort of smiley face that was meant to commemorate, or some sort of sad, I don't know, something like that. But it was so hilarious. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he left knowing that she was going to the hospital, or know that she was not well or something. I think that was also the thing that really made it worse. It wasn't like he left and then the miscarriage happened while she was away, and there was no time to come back because all I don't know, whatever. It was like he left knowing that something may go wrong or not go wrong, and then that happened. It's just to do with it all on their own. And I think to myself, there's not many women out there who would forgive that sort of thing. Those are the kind of things that most women would kind of think, okay, this is the final straw. Certain things happen in your life and they're not there for you. I even remember, this is a weird story, but I remember even Dark Side Phil, someone who I love to flip and watch the content of from his detractors and stuff. There's an iconic story of Dark Side Phil with one of his former girlfriends, Leanne, where I think she had a mental breakdown or some sort of or she had an anxiety attack or something along those kind of lines, and her workplace sent her to the hospital. And I guess Dark Side Phil didn't like that because she was at home playing games. So his girl's work calls him and says, hey, we sent your wife to hospital because she's flipping had an anxiety attack. And he got annoyed. He had to go to hospital because he obviously had to stop streaming and he had to stop asking for tips. So he runs hospital and goes to go check on her. And I guess because he wasn't really attentive and he was, came there with a bad attitude, and he was, just being a bit, rude to the staff, whatever it may be, it kind of opened Leanne's eyes to how much of a piece of shit he was. So it was a kind of final straw. And then I think from that day onwards, she never came back to the house. She just kind of left and never went back again. So I think women generally have that thing of you're meant to be my boyfriend, you're meant to be my husband, you're meant to be there for me, my protector. So the one moment I need you, you kind of turn it into a you situation. You're not there for me at all, and that's gone. So he's probably thankful that she hung around, to be honest, because that's pretty grim. I'm not going to lie, because a miscarriage isn't I don't know, this is a bad, analogy, but a miscarriage isn't a period. Yeah, I mean, it's not like a really painful period. This is a pretty, especially if you were trying to have a child as well and this happened, this is a pretty serious deal. You have to take pretty seriously, and he didn't, and he preferred to go on the road with his boys. But again, to be fair to Brendan, he's not alone in this. A lot of those comedians are like this. There's a clip I already played beforehand of Bert Crash on his podcast talking about how he actively tries to stay away from home as much as possible because he just prefers to be on the road than to actually be with his own family. I think a lot of those comedians are like that. There must be something really intoxicating and quite addicting about being on the road, especially as a grown man, where you have the ability to essentially kind of fulfill your teenage fantasies in a way, because you're kind of a little bit living a rock star lifestyle. It's not really, but you kind of are, especially in your little niche, especially if you're like a Bert Kreischer, those kind of people. You have your real diehard fans that come out to watch you, that drink a lot and stuff, that hang out with you, all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, they really love it. So when you go out, it's a real event. People are coming to sign autographs, they're coming to take pictures with you, they want to hang out with you, and after party, they want to come to your green room. It's an absolute event. So I can understand why doing that is way more fun than being at your home and playing catch with your kid in the garden or something, right? Especially if you like that kind of stuff, or listening to your wife's, stories about the neighbor or about some woman she doesn't like at fucking daycare. I can get it, but god damn it, they don't sound like good partners. Do you know what I mean? It sounds like the women involved in the situation, they get to bear the brunt of it. They have to raise the kids, quote unquote. Most of them have nannies, whatever. They have to bear the kind of homebody type things that they do, and then the guy gets to kind of frolic and do what he wants to do on the road, while the woman has to kind of just essentially pick up all the doo-doo. It's pretty mad, honestly. It's pretty mad. I'm not going to lie about it, but yeah, what a horrendous story, right? And then we continue about this one. The Malik one's pretty funny. Early this year, one of Schaub's co-hosts, Malik Brazil, mysteriously quit the Firing the Kid podcast after he corrected Schaub on a simple mistake. Schaub insisted that the boxing match between Andy Ruiz and Chris Arreola wasn't a pay-per-view fight, when in actuality it was. Seeing as this was their job to promote a combat sports, it's important the information that they're spreading is correct. Naturally, Malik corrects Schaub, and conversation should move forward without an issue. You'd think so, wouldn't you? It's evident by the guest body language throughout all this episode that they aren't allowed to poke fun or correct Schaub, even though he's a comedian and should be able to joke around with his pals. Instead, if Schaub says or does something wrong, the room would be filled with awkward tension as Callan stumbles around trying to keep Schaub from blowing his lid. The most important person that a narcissist must lie to is themselves. Now, I'm not diagnosing Schaub as a personality disorder. However, it's apparent that he must control his environment and remain in a safe space, free from criticism, even at the risk of sharing false information. And that's really funny, right? Because everybody else in his group, Ariola, exactly, Miguel Gonzalez, Arioles, I love Ariolas. The funny thing about Brendan is that he's kind of like a well-documented and kind of self-professed, Joe Rogan kind of cockholster, right? He loves Joe Rogan. But one of the things that I always say about Joe Rogan, especially on the stream, that I kind of give him credit for, especially myself being a big fan of his, is that despite being as rich and as famous and as well known as clouted up as he is, he's far less of a douche than any of these guys in stand-up comedy, like the ones that people don't like anyway, specifically. I know Joe has these things, he has these issues that people don't like, mine essentially being that kind of. And again, I'm not, for the most part, I'm not political at all. I don't really give a fuck about politics, but I hate this kind of like false little flirting he does with the right wing sort of stuff, but then he pretends to be a liberal. It's like, bro, just either say you're right wing or just don't talk about politics at all. It's this kind of fake kind of like thing that he does, I guess, on my nerves. Then of course there's that stuff that he does where he kind of thinks everybody has the opportunity to build the JRE if they just put their mind to it, right? He has that kind of weird stuff, or how he's kind of a bit dismissive about mental health, and he thinks if you just go on a run or if you just work out and go in a steam room, you'll be fine. There's things that I find quite annoying about the guy, but in general he's pretty cool, pretty level-headed, generally respectful. No one has a bad word to say about him in terms of his manners, in terms of how he carries himself. People share stories about him tipping waitresses and restaurants crazy. He goes out of his way to help people. There was that guy that caught COVID really early on, and Joe basically helped to pay all his medical costs. Like, he does stuff in the background that no one ever knows about, and really goes out and helps his community. So he has every reason to be a dickhead, but he's not a dickhead. So the really funny thing about it is that Brendan idolizes Joe, but I think just idolizes the money side of things. The fact that he has all this power and influence, and people, when he walks into a room, or when he's like in the flipping hallway of a comedy club, people are like kind of shaking his hand and kissing his feet, or kissing a ring per se, right? And bowing at him or not, giving him all his praise. That's what Brendan's jealous of. But as a personality, he takes nothing from Joe, nothing. Do you think he copies from him? Sorry. It's the things that Joe says, like, oh, I don't go to people's podcasts, and also, what does he say? I don't go to people's podcasts. Oh, I don't read comments. Those are two things he copies from Joe. I don't go to people's podcasts for interviews because I've got my own. I don't read comments. But the Joe thing about not going on people's podcasts makes more sense because he's got the biggest one in the world, and also he just doesn't have the time because he does a million other things outside of it too. But then the don't read comments thing for Joe may also make sense because he has a podcast listened by millions of people. It's impossible to gather any kind of meaningful feedback from reading the comments. But what he does have, I think, which I think we saw, was evident from when he re-invited the people from Twitter like Jack Dorsey and that what you call it, the woman who was a lawyer for them and stuff. I think when he did the first interview with Jack Dorsey, people didn't like it and it kicked up a fuss. And he obviously clearly has somebody in his team that monitors stuff online, right? That monitors it. And they'll be able to basically say, hey, this interview didn't go well, people didn't like that. And he was able to, you know, reflect on that feedback and do the interview again. Imagine if that was Brendan Schaub. He would never listen to that stuff. He'd just say people are haters and know what they're talking about and keep it moving. So there's things that he picks and chooses the stuff that he likes about certain people. But in general, the kind of good traits they have, he just kind of puts them to one side, especially when it comes to being a quote unquote nice person. But yeah, I just wanted to recap on that article because I thought it was funny when I stumbled across it on the Friday Kids subreddit. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. I'm going to give this person who wrote it some love too, so definitely check it. It's by this person called Ash Ryland. October 7th. The headline is Brendan Schaub and the Homeless Cast, a fight against inauthenticity. If you haven't seen it already, please do check it out. It's really funny, really informative, and it kind of gives you a good, overview of why people have an issue with the guy and why they probably aren't the biggest fans of him and everything that he does. So please do check it out. And then I thought off the back of that, what would also be funny would be let's talk about this actually. Let's go to this. Let's talk about this, right? Because this is random. This is absolutely random, but it needs to be said. So someone posted this on the subreddit, right? And this, I guess, Brendan posting a picture of him on roller skates or roller blades, right? This Monday just gone, and it's Monday Kicks, right? It's him obviously posting a pair of skates that he's using and doing a damn thing out there. And the funny thing about this is that just the other day, I was actually considering buying a pair of rollerblades myself to kind of get started for this Sober October thing that I'm gonna do, because I was planning to do like one sort of like skill or one sort of like new skill thing that I wanted to learn or relearn. And obviously I used to skate quite often when I was younger, and I used to skateboard as well, and to a pretty decent standard. I just kind of stopped because I used to start kind of get into football more and obviously doing martial arts and whatnot. But I wanted to kind of get back into it and kind of commit to the whole month to doing it at least half an hour every single day. But I was just looking at it, I was just like, the reason why I kind of fell out of love of rollerblading for the most part was that it just looks really lame. And if you see some guys online, there's a couple of dudes I follow on Instagram who are pro, and they just look so lame. Like the way they kind of set up to do their tricks, they do that whole hand thing as they're skating up to the thing. They act as if they're doing the coolest trick in the world, and really and truly, rollerblading is a lot more easier to do than it is to skateboard, because essentially you've got skates on your feet and it's not that difficult, especially if you're fairly athletic, to kind of get it down. So it's just, I don't know, man. It's just so. I was already doubting my decision. Then I saw him post a picture of himself rollerblading. I was like, you know what? I'm out. I can't do it now. I'm over it. I'm definitely over it. If I was already doubting it myself, then seeing him rollerblade, I'm like, I definitely can't do it. Because if he can rollerblade, if he's pretty decent at it, it basically means, or it basically kind of proves the point that this isn't that much of a skill. Do you know what I mean? The fact that he can master it to a decent level where he's doing decent tricks and stuff and dropping in on the ramp or dropping in on the bowl. Like, nah. I'm not involved. I don't care anymore. I don't want to do it. I'm just going to stick to my skateboard. The plan is at the moment, especially for October, I'm going to buy myself a nice cruiser, a nice probably 8.6 plus, skate deck, with some nice fat wheels, some nice trucks, get myself some nice shoes, and just do slappies all month. Just do slappies all month. Pop, shove, slappies, ollies up curbs, ollies down curbs, bombing hills. That's it. But the idea of me running down the street with my skates, with my foot, doing all that nonsense, nah, I'm over it. Especially if I've got an image of him doing that in his own self. I am definitely not doing that at all. And it's funny, isn't it, how someone so lame can immediately make something that you're planning to do look so uncool. And now I'm completely off of it. I'm gone. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. I'm not bloody doing it. I cannot do it, and I refuse to do it. I refuse to do it. Okay? Refuse. Honestly, man. Because honestly, I was going to get a pair, bro. I was going to get a pair. I swear to God, there's this pair I was going to get. That's from Brain Dead. Brain Dead roller blades. Right? Brain Dead did a collaboration with this company called Dem Skates. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They're pretty well known in terms of the rollerblading industry and whatnot. And these are everywhere. You can still find them, pretty decent sizes, right? Available. And they look pretty sick. And I went to get a pair, right? And just kind of, you know, do my thing. But when I saw him wearing them, I was like, you know what? I can't get them. I can't get rollerblades and be anywhere associated with anything that man does. And in general, I just assumed if he was doing them, then imagine the other lamos out there that are doing the same thing as well. I just can't stand for it. I really, really can't. Even though these look really good and they're really by a decent brand too, who I'm familiar with the people behind them, and I know they do cool stuff and they always do cool collaborations, and their hearts and minds are in the right place. But I just can't do it anymore. Even though these look really, really good. Yeah, fruit boots. Yeah, people are insulting them on the chat already. You see? You see what I mean? I'm so happy I didn't do it. You see what I mean? I'm already getting insulted in the chat about them, and I haven't even got them yet. And people are already dissing me about them in the chat. Luckily, they all sold out, right? In my size, they're all gone. Luckily, because I'm probably going to be a large, right? Because I've got a gigantic foot. But it's funny that it didn't happen because I'm already getting insulted in the chat. People are calling them fruit boots. That's a good one. Fruit boots, oh god. But yeah, I can't do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm over it. So if you do see me in Sober October doing a challenge, it's definitely gonna be skateboarding. It can't be rollerblading because I saw Brendan Schaub decided to go and do his bit of rollerblading, and I just can't be associated with that kind of level of stuff. I just cannot. Like, Monday kicks, come on. I don't know if he scuffed them up skating himself, or he just bought them pre-made, or he rented them. Most likely he did rent them, or whatever it may be. But come on, man, look how tight they're tied as well. It's like, nah. Lame as well, using all the emojis everywhere. Did he hashtag it as well? No, he didn't. Did he tag it? Look, Bladehead. Of course he hashtagged it. Fucking Bladehead. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. I'm done with that one. I'm so glad I didn't get a pair, honestly. Bladehead, God almighty. Have some shame. Anyway, it's funny though, right? There is no manly way to suck a straw, in it. If you just notice that, look at something on the camera. There's no manly way to put a straw to your mouth and to suck some juices through said straw. There's no, or you do it without your lips like poking out. There's no manly way to do it, or you do it from the side. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't change the fact that you're still putting your lips around a cylindrical object and essentially performing fellatio to get the flipping liquids through to your mouth. Which is why most guys, when they go to clubs, the first thing they do when they get a drink with a straw is they chuck the straw away, do you know what I mean? And just start sipping the drink. There really is no way to... I'm trying to say, do it slowly with your tongue out. Yo, that way that he eats as well with that is the most gnarly way to eat, innit? Have you ever seen anyone do that in real life? Well, you have to kind of like, wow, incredible, absolutely incredible. But anyway, let's continue. So, let's talk about this first. Let's go. Let's move. Oh, I want to talk about this quickly before we go to the funeral fit stuff. Have you guys seen this stuff that's been happening? So I guess Brendan had a little conversation about it on his show, the Schaub show, where he was talking about this issue that I guess DC is having with Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal and maybe some other people as well in MMA, or in UFC, sorry, who are kind of criticizing him and coming after him in general. Personally, I don't get it because DC seems like a cool dude, but I also know from being a UFC casual, just watching it from the outside looking in, that he is a bit of a company man since he's been with the UFC. He decided to make excuses. He decided to kind of like ignore all the stuff that people have problems with the UFC when it comes to Dana White and matchmaking and, rankings and title shots and stuff. He like makes excuses for them. And essentially he's like a male Megan O'Leary, right? He's a bit of a company man, which is, it is what it is. But I can understand why some fighters who are obviously trying to change things or obviously trying to force UFC into giving them what they want, why they wouldn't like him, because he's not someone that's going to champion anything they say, because he wants to keep his job. But then I'm also aware that, you know, personality wise, it's understandable why these two guys wouldn't get on with someone like him, right? Because they're, you know, they're two people that have never really kissed the ring or, you know, bowed down on their knees or to anybody in their entire life. So it makes sense why somebody like a DC would kind of rub them up the wrong way. But also, they are, guess what, fighters. So it makes complete sense, right? Why they would have that kind of a point of view. It doesn't matter how big DC is, they're still, you know, they're still flipping, you know, trained flipping killers who go into the ring and essentially annihilate each other with their hands, knees, elbows, you know, wrist, legs, whatever it may be. So clearly they're not going to have an issue with it. But this has been like an ongoing issue. I guess you got a headline here: he would all destroy them from UFC. From a UFC warns heavyweight, warns Nate Diaz, Rogan Masvidal, and other fighters taking shots at Daniel Cormier. And obviously that's Brendan talking about it. And there's another article here that kind of explains it a bit more. After I think DC made some comments about Nate Diaz, basically saying that he thought Nate Diaz would get destroyed by Hamzat, and he's lucky, or that he's happy he didn't get the fight or whatever against Hamzat in the end, because I don't think he'd win. And I guess Nate Diaz didn't take that well, and basically called DC a fat motherfucker and stuff, and, you know, all this stuff. Respect your OG, you fat motherfucker. And obviously Daniel Cormier replied back in a quite, you know, lethal and deadly way, Nathan, relax, right? Which is quite clearly a warning. Like, if you keep going, it's going to get worse. And I think Jorge Masvidal was the same situation too, if I'm not mistaken. You know, just, you know, general fighter beef and talking back and forth. Now, the funny thing about it is Brendan's comments around it, because as per usual, in classic Brendan Schaub way, this has really nothing to do with him. And again, I don't think it's really that much of an issue. I understand why Nate Diaz would have an issue with what Daniel Cormier said, especially Nate Diaz's personality. I don't think he takes constructive criticism well at all. He's obviously going to always think that you're trying to sun him, and he's always going to go to level 100 just who he is, why we love the guy. And Jorge Masvidal is the same thing too. He's had his issues with the UFC and Dana in terms of his contract situation, his opportunity to get belts, blah, blah, blah. It makes sense why they'd have an issue with the UFC and Dana White. And also makes sense why DC wouldn't agree with what they say, because he's a company man. But I don't see why this involves Brendan. Like, this just involves those guys. They can sort it out between each other. Like, they're all grown men. If they want to meet up in the gym and throw, you know, and throw hands, they can. But this idea that it somehow is parallel to what Brendan's going through as a person doesn't make any sense. But clearly, the guy used the opportunity to just insert himself and make it all about him, which is clever and kind of classic Brendan Schaub. We kind of use the situation that DT's going through with Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal to basically talk about himself and basically try to make it seem try to make it seem as if he's
a big man on campus.
Trying to make it seem as if he's sending somewhat a not so subtle message, right? That if you keep testing him, you know, if he ever crosses path with you, he will destroy you, which is obvious, isn't it? Because he's a flipping trained, you know, MMA fighter, and he's fought in the UFC as a heavyweight. Clearly, he's going to beat most people up in the world. But it's very strange how he kind of latched onto this. It's a really funny story and made it all about himself, and it has nothing to do with him. So let's play the clip and hear what he has to say.
People feel like, oh, it's okay to take shots at him. He's a big guy. He's not going to do anything, which I get it too. You know what I'm saying? Trust me, I get that. You don't want to come off as a bully. But I'm telling you, man, anybody who's taking shots at DC, keep that same energy. If DC was being serious, you guys would get fucked up. But you know he's not going to do anything because he's a professional and he works for the UFC commentating team. But if he wasn't,
why do I feel like he's saying that about himself too? Because even in the beginning he said, you don't want to go back and forth because you know you're going to come across as a bully. Because he said that a lot. He said that during the aftermath of the whole Kalila stuff, right, and Annie stuff. Like, I don't want to be a bully or whatnot. I don't know, some nonsense stuff, like some weird backhanded compliment type thing that he did. Very strange.
You guys wouldn't be taking shots at him. And also, the only reason taking shots at him is because he's doing so well. That's another reason they're taking.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This brain that these guys have, right, where just because you're doing well, it means that you're kind of impervious to criticism, that it doesn't exist. No one can criticize anything that you do when you're doing well, which is insane. Why do critics exist if that was the case? Why does social media for the most part. Why do people have opinions? Why do people have barbershop debates and stuff? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just such a bizarre way to go around it. And also, in general, forget all that. Forget that kind of analogy. That doesn't make any sense. Forget all that. If you're doing so well and it doesn't matter, why would it matter also to even bring it up? Because you're doing well, isn't it? Like, it doesn't matter if people have wrong things to say about it. The fact that you're still able to, you know, pay your house bill, put gas in your car, take your kids to school, wear fancy trainers and fancy clothes is everything. That should be the only signifier you need to show yourself that you're doing well. You don't need anybody to kind of pat you on the back and give you a big review, because the things that you care about, the materialistic stuff and, you know, the stuff that goes on social media is clearly working. So it doesn't make any sense. It's just a load of nonsense. It's kind of like a weird self-cope. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing well, I'm doing well, I'm doing well. Okay, cool, you're doing well, but people still think what you're doing is crap. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't actually matter really for the most part.
Shots at him. You know it's gonna get traction if you talk shit about DC. But I would love to see if people kept that same.
What? No one talks about DC to get traction. Like, those guys are attacking him because they have an issue of what he said. Both of them have a very, again, you could think what they have. You could both think, anyone, you're allowed to think that Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz are being childish. You're allowed to think that they're being petty. You're allowed to think that they're overreacting. But they clearly have an issue with DC and he has an issue with them. So they're going back and forth. It happens all the time. There is no, like, it's not bigger or smaller than that. It just is what it is. So I don't see, but again, he's basically trying to internalize and make it by himself, as per usual.
Tony Ferguson talks shit about him. Fucking Diaz, right? Jorge Masvidal. There's been other guys that take shots at DC. I'm telling you, man, he beat everybody I just listed. He beat up all at the same time, if he wanted to. But you know, Daniel's a smart, professional, gentle soul.
Also, this idea that MMA fighters couldn't lose a fight against other MMA fighters, especially if they were outnumbered, is pretty mad. I know weight classes matter, but could you legitimately, again, I know I'm being picky here, but let's be honest. Could you legitimately think that DC could beat up 3 trained UFC guys at the same time? Really? Is that what we're saying here? Unless they're, I'm not talking about flipping, what they call what's his name? We're not talking about flyweights and shit. We're talking about like middleweights, lightweight. You honestly think if you put 3 lightweights in the octagon with him, and you have to fight them all at the same time, that he would win? Like, what does this even mean? That thing only works with regular people. If you say, oh, if you put 5 of my haters in the octagon with me, yeah, you probably would, because all you have to do is knock out 2 really badly, and the other 3 would probably shit their pants and start crying or faint. That makes sense. But if you put 3 fighters in against 1 fighter, I would put my money on the 3 all the time. I've watched those Russian videos of them fighting where they have, like, you know, 3 against 1, and it always ends with the one getting absolutely stomped to hell, because there's no way you can fight 3 trained assassins. It just doesn't work out. This is not fucking It Man. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about?
And he's gonna be like, okay, dude, now he'll defend himself like this, like, dude, calm the fuck down. But if DC got serious, you want to keep pulling that lion's tail, be careful what you ask for.
Oh, this analogy as well, this lion tail thing he's been hanging around with BGL too long. What's this lion tail pulling thing? You're not a lion. There's nothing liony about you in the slightest. No one's pulling your tail. It's just, and the lion pulling tail thing analogy is interesting too, because it gives the impression that he's just minding his business, just out there overlooking his kingdom, you know, seeing what he can eat, seeing what, you know, lioness he can bloody plow. No, like, you're actively participating in culture. You're putting out dumb things. You're saying dumb things. The people are responding to dumb things you say. That's all that's basically happening. It's really not that deep. But he thinks he's just, like, you know, not offending anyone, not doing anything. It's just like, bruv, you've done a lot of things that people generally don't like. They're commenting on it. They have strong opinions about it. And that's basically the part of what it is. It's like nothing of what he's saying is relating to DC. This is all to do with him, basically. That's basically what I'm getting at.
Because if DC wanted to, he'd twist every single one of your necks off. But he doesn't. You guys keep taking shots at him.
Yeah. I mean, DC lately, before he was more kind of like more politically correct, but now he's starting to open up and just be completely honest about how he feels. Be himself.
So guys get mad. Yeah. The only people more sensitive than fighters are comics, but they're very similar. So if you say anything about a comic, say anything about a fighter, especially a fighter, they're gonna...
You're talking about yourself, man. You're talking about, he's essentially the most sensitive person to ever walk the face of the earth, is what he's saying is true. if MMA fighters or UFC fighters in particular are very sensitive, and he's also a comedian who are also very sensitive, that would mean that he is the most sensitive person that's ever walked the face of the earth, which is weird, kind of humble brag, in it, kind of backward compliment thing he's doing. I am the most sensitive person in the world, actually. Everything affects me the worst. Like, that's not nice. That is not nice. It's like, how can you brag about being sensitive? How can you brag about being the guy that's been hurt the most? I may be big. I may be able to twist your face off from your neck. I may be able to run through you and put you through a glass window or door or wall, whatever it may be. But I'm sensitive. That's not nice. God damn.
Take it personal, and they fire shots at you. All good. I would love to see keep that same energy. Keep pulling on that lion's tail, man. You better pray to God that lion in the suit doesn't turn around. You boys would all be in trouble.
Remember when DC?
Oh, shut up, Chin. You know what's funny, yeah? Someone said here, Andy SVT said, comics and fighters are as similar as a fork and a cereal. Another not funny says, most comics can take criticism. Exactly. That's why I don't even buy this whole thing, because how many fight cards have you watched where they've had, how many fight cards have you watched where they've been an interview inside the octagon, especially prelims? You see them interviewing the fighter in the thing, and they'll be watching the replay of their knockout, and then they'll say, oh yeah, I was watching tape of this guy in the gym, and I could see that he sometimes dips to the left when he's about to throw an uppercut or whatever thing that he analyzed, and I knew how to counter it, and obviously I did it. Happy for my team. That's a big sign that these guys watch tape. They see their mistakes, they see the things that you can correct well, and they kind of apply it in the octagon. One time, Brendan was on his show with Eric Griffin, and I think Eric was kind of criticizing or going at Brendan's stand-up, saying that, hey, your stand-up is terrible, man. Like, you're striking in the octagon and stuff. And he was like, oh, didn't you ever watch tape on people or see your flaws? Why didn't it really improve over the time that you were fighting? And he basically said that he never watched tape. So during his entire UFC career, he'd never watched any tape of himself and tried to improve. He just let his kind of, his coaches do that for him. So they'd watched it for him and they'd basically try and correct it in the gym, which is a pretty gnarly way to go about it. But it kind of says a lot about what he kind of ended up being in terms of a person, where he's unable to actually see the errors in his way because he doesn't really actually analyze his mistakes, or doesn't even see them as mistakes in the first place. So it's a very bizarre way to go about it, and also to kind of group everybody in the same way, that we're all the same, we're like this, we're sensitive. It's like, no, some fighters are sensitive, but some fighters are also able to take criticism and say, you know what, this wasn't good and I'm going to try and come back better. I know what I can improve on. I've heard what people said, blah 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 blah. But he couldn't do that, and maybe that also explains why he ended up quitting in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Because there wasn't any point that he could reflect and think he could improve on, because he thought, I'm the best at what I can do right now, I can't get any better, and this is it, I'm going to leave. Maybe, I'm not really too sure. But regardless, what an interesting clip, man. What a weird, interesting clip. Making that entire nothing burger that DC's going, because again, I don't think it's that serious, the stuff he's going through with Nate Diaz and Jorge. Even if Nate Diaz and Jorge are trying to get clout off him and trying to get some clicks, and this is the MMA media, man. It's just like, it's full of nonsense anyway. They talk about nonsense stuff. It's crazy. It's up and down. They're trying to generate clicks. The UFC doesn't necessarily promote them that much anyway, so you have to kind of keep yourself in the news. It just is what it is. I don't necessarily have a big deal about it, really, personally. But hey, let's continue. Let's continue. So, let's talk about this let's not bury the lead. Let's talk about the flipping funeral fit. So there's two videos to go through before you took. Oh yeah, this is what people say in chat before I continue. The Naughty Nomad says, much preferred Chin when he was the invisible producer. He was the Parks of the show. Parks and Chin, you'd need to be faceless, and producers just don't feel right to take them larger role. Great point, Naughty Nomad. And you know what's interesting? The parallels between them. They've both become quite derided by their audience or by the fan base. I mean, people generally don't, have the greatest things to say about Chin anymore, because he gets involved, or he maybe defends Brendan, or he just speaks too much. And the same thing that could be said about Parks and Joe Budden. Parks basically is Joe Budden's cock holster. He goes out of his way to defend him. He agrees with everything he says for the most part, doesn't really challenge him any really strong way, and he maybe talks too much also. So maybe there's something in it as well. I don't necessarily agree. I think producers can be a good counterbalance on the show and actually add things to the show, but they usually need to be, I think, like, somewhat opposed to the post views. They kind of have to be a little bit of friction there to kind of make it a bit interesting. When it's just them agreeing, it doesn't work. Like, I think Young Jamie is a good counteract for Joe. He disagrees with Joe all the time. Like, they have kind of passive aggressive arguments they used to have before were really funny. They were quite good to listen to, really. When you listen to Joe Rogan and you hear Joe basically grilling Young Jamie or scolding him for not getting up a thing on the screen quick enough, and Young Jamie basically silently protesting against it. Like, those are things that are quite good. So, and I think in general, there's stuff that Jamie, you know, thoughts and opinions and standpoints of certain things that he doesn't align with Joe Rogan in the slightest. But I don't really think you get that with Parks. You don't get that with Chin, especially. So whatever. Rumor has it, after the funeral fit, one went for a drug walk, the other went to all in at the blackjack train in Las Vegas. Oh mate, honestly. But anyway, let's continue. So this is allegedly meant to be the prelude to the funeral fit. This is again taken from the Fighting the Kids subreddit, and they're saying that this is the prelude to the funeral fit. This might explain why the funeral fit was even a situation in the first place. So let's see what I'll go on for this. Let me get this up on the screen, make this nice and big, and let's go. This is from the King and the Sting and the Wing. Now I'm still not understanding why this is called the King and the Sting when the King is gone. Right? Wasn't the King meant to be Theo Vaughn, and the Sting is meant to be Brenda because he looks like he's been stung by bees, and the Wing is meant to be, you know, Crystalia because, you know, he's got that bird thing he got going on, because I think people say he looks like a bird. I don't know, but why is it called the King still? Why didn't you just call it Sting and the Wing? Why have the King? The King's not on there anymore. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of the show, no? I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out my ass. But anyway, let's continue.
I gotta go to a funeral tomorrow, man.
Well, that's plug that.
Oh, I think they're live streaming it. Check out my grandma's funeral.
Is it your
I'll
grandma?
be selling merch out
Oh
the
my
back.
God. Is it really? Okay.
I mean, she was 98. It's not a
Calusa
sad
Casino, October
Yeah,
28th.
I get it. Calusa making up casinos, dude.
thing.
So that's sad. I'm sorry.
Don't be. I wasn't that close with her. My dad's like one of 13. You know, she's cool.
You're
She was
diminished.
not.
You know what's funny about this? Again, like I always say, do you remember the way he sobbed and cried about Crystalia getting cancelled for allegedly touching up underage girls? Yet he feels nothing about his grandmother dying. You can't feel sad for people dying because they're old, which is a weird way to kind of contextualize things. But yet you're going to a funeral of somebody that you weren't too close with, and that he's kind of trying to paint the idea that his dad wasn't close with you because he was one of 13. What? So in Brendan's head, if you're from a family where you have loads of siblings, you're not necessarily going to have a connection with your parents because there's loads of you. That doesn't make any sense. Like, there's there's kids that have been raised in single parent households who aren't close to their parents. There's kids who have got 17 siblings and they're close to their parents. Like, it doesn't work out that way. Every family and household is completely different. But this idea, just because you're born in a big family, that you're not going to be close to your parents, it's flipping crazy. And if he wasn't that close to his grandma, why are you going to the funeral? Why would your dad just tell you, just don't go, innit? If you know you didn't really know her too tough, you didn't really associate, just don't go. But he's going anyway, so it just defeats the whole purpose of the whole argument. It's very, very strange.
98.
But I love how determined he is to tell them, no, I'm not bothered. I don't care about it. I'm not emotional at all. But again, God forbid, touch wood. But if Chris D was to flipping pass away and they flipping fire in his G-Wagon or something on the way to Starbucks, this guy would be in black mourning for a month straight, let alone Joe Rogan. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that he has no emotion for his actual family members, like blood, people who basically raised him in a way, but he has more emotion to cry about these comedians who he knows the darkest, deepest secrets of. It's really crazy.
And also 300.
You're in pain and you're being defensive.
You might be right.
I'll do mine later.
She used to swim every day, though.
There you go.
Even at 98, used to swim like a freaking walrus. Man.
Well, no, it's your dad's. Okay, so it's your
Oh, you don't know her too well, but then you know that she swims every day. It's a lie.
dad's mom.
Yeah.
And he was one of 13, bro.
One of 13.
Oh,
So
that's
I have
too
like
many kids.
I
Who's
think-
busting that much and having like that's crazy.
religious. But my grandma was super religious and just nothing.
There we go. We got a prelude to the funeral fit. So let's go to the funeral fit. Let's actually go, because this is legitimately one of the most insane things I've seen in my entire life. Like, legitimately. Like, insane thing I've seen in my entire life, right? So let's see here. I'm actually gonna type in the words funeral fit and see what happens on Google, because I legitimately don't get this, right? People sing the chat, the ting and the zing. No, I don't want to be part of that show at all. So there is something about it, right? So let's see. Where is it? You see this? I've got it on the screen. Can you see that funeral fits, right? There is something in this funeral fit stuff, right? So he's not maybe alone. I'm typing it in. There's something in there. You don't want to pull up. Oh, who's that girl? Influencer, funeral. What does she do again? Influencer funeral pictures. Do you remember that during the pandemic? That girl who took a picture of her dad's casket. There we go. We got it. We got it on the screen. Got it in one. So there we go. Right? Do you remember this thing? This is a big situation. So this is maybe Brendan Schaub, and it's like, oh look, what's this? We've got a super chat here. If you're going to hear the sound in a few seconds because it's always bloody delayed. Will it play? Will it play? Will it play? Hurry up. Let's move this tab across here so we can play at the same time. But this is basically the same thing, right? Yeah, so there we go. That's basically the same thing. That's essentially the same thing, right? This is the same thing. I don't care. So this social media, what's she called? She's called Jane.
To understand, his dad told him he was better than everyone else in his school. He literally created a redact narcissist.
Big up Drone Adventures for the $5 super chat. You are 100% right. This is definitely the fault of his parents. 100%. They enabled and encouraged this horrible behavior. And let's not also flingamajiggy. Let's not also absolve his peers and his people that he employs or he pays to be his friends from absolution either. They've also kind of built and kind of added to this case and made him into the monster he is at the moment, because no one is willing to call him out because they don't want to jump off the gravy train. But anyway, do you remember this influencer? This happened, I think, if I'm not mistaken, during the peak of the pandemic. I remember the story going semi viral. This influencer called Jane Rivera, she took these pictures looking hot and cute in front of her dad's casket, right, when he passed away, right? Legitimately insane social media influencing sort of stuff. But I remember at the time she said something like, oh, people don't understand because my dad told me I could do what I want, I could live, just basically narcissistic, entitled, bratty sort of behavior sort of stuff. But I remember this being the only thing that I remember seeing that could constitute being like a funeral fit, right? Somebody legitimately, like, look at this picture. I'm going to zoom into this one, but look at this picture. Look at this. She legitimately has got like a hot girl outfit on. Like, this is an outfit that you could go to Club Live wearing. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is legitimately a hot girl outfit. Anyway, this is Brendan and his wife, I guess, on the way to go here to his grandmother's funeral. And this, when I saw this picture at first, I thought, first of all, it came from her profile, which will make a lot more sense because, for lack of a better term, we know what the deal was with her. So it makes all sense if she would have posted that. But the fact that he posted it on his Instagram is the insane bit. Like, it's the insane bit about it. Like, the fact that he posted it is fucking wild. Of all the times, you would think most funerals or even weddings, for the most part, weddings like that, weddings probably are not like that actually. I feel like weddings nowadays that people go to, they do kind of make it about themselves. You do get a lot of that. You get sometimes, especially I'm thinking about my friends that I follow online, because it feels like this summer there's been so many weddings and all my friends have been posting pictures of themselves getting ready on the way there, and you rarely if ever saw even the pictures of the fucking the bride and the groom. You just saw pictures of them going. So a lot of people are making weddings and stuff all about them. There's a lot of kind of main character syndrome existing out there in the world. So maybe this isn't that big of a deal, but you have to be really, really redacted to go to a funeral where you're meant to be reflecting on the life of somebody that meant something to you. It's a moment for you to maybe, it's not necessarily about you for once, maybe take time to reflect. You're probably stricken with grief anyway, so the time for you to basically remember to put on a fit that you think is going to be good enough to even share on social media is not there. But to even take that picture the way that, it's fucking deranged. Absolutely deranged. And the fact that they both refuse to wear all black too, maybe says a lot about it as well. Like, that says a lot about it too. The fact that they refuse to even do the bare minimum of like wearing black to maybe, mark how somber the occasion is and to really kind of ground yourself and to just kind of, make yourself a part of the group and not kind of stick out like a sore thumb. Because if you're wearing the outfits that they're wearing, why not just wear a purple suit? Why don't they go there in a red suit? Why not just go there in a Dolce & Gabbana suit, a Gucci suit? Why not? I mean, grandma died. Let's put on the nice wears. Let's put on my Balenciaga jacket. Let's put on my snapback hat. Let's throw on my Saint Laurent boots. Why not just do that? This is legitimately insane. The caption as well is the worst, right? The caption makes it even worse than what it is. That's a real icing on the cake. Funeral fit. My grandma would have wanted me to flex on my family just a tad, or just tad, right? Not even a tad, just tad. So everything doesn't really flipping write it correctly. It really comes across a bit tardaded. I don't even say the word, but you know what I mean. And then just the face behind it too. The sort of like, he's there but he's not there face. The wife just having an absolute whale of a time, like clearly enjoying the fact that she's outside and actually spending time with her other half. He's not on a, like, this is the face of somebody that's actually happy to be out with their other half, like legitimately genuinely happy. Like, I don't get time with him anyway. He's always on the road. He's always with other men, you know, hanging around telling dick jokes and stuff. This is the time that I actually get to spend with him, so I'm gonna enjoy it. Fuck you if you hate on it. But god damn it, bro, this is your grandmother. You should be the one being like, hey babe, put the phone down. Because I've been there before. I remember my first funeral that I went to, which was really flipping sad, RIP Bob forever. This kid that I grew up with in my area, who was the first kind of kid that I remember dying, right? The first kind of real kind of close friend I remember passing away in really tragic circumstances too. He was in, he was in a gang, unfortunately. And, my area was really rough. I kind of grew up in the middle of all that stuff, but luckily I didn't really take part in it, even though I had friends that are kind of, in the middle of wars and postcode wars and stuff. And he ended up passing away in a really tragic way. I think he was on his way back from football, and one of his ops unfortunately caught him slipping and kind of ran behind him with a bike lock. I think it was a bike. If I'm not mistaken, it was like one of those kryptonite locks, those massive chains. And he went behind him and just smashed him back of his head. And allegedly, from the police, what we read or what we were told was that he instantly died from that one hit. Like, it basically, put him out to pasture, even though they ended up stomping him out as well, which he died in a really gruesome way. And he's one of my close friends in the hood, like someone that I kind of saw all the time. He'd always the kind of kid that would always be shouting your name from like 2 streets over, asking you about your mom, just really cool. And he passed away. And I remember going to his funeral, and it's weird when you go to a funeral at that age. I think I might have been like 13 or something. You don't really you can't really, even at that age, when I was a teenager, I didn't really process it too much. I didn't process it too well. So I remember not really kind of figuring, I couldn't necessarily get it around my head that it happened. But I remember I was there, and I remember like getting out my phone and trying to take a picture as they were lowering the casket into the grave. And I remember my friend going to me, "Hey, what are you doing, man? No, you don't do that. You don't do that." I instantly kind of remembered where I was. But I remember that being my natural inclination to kind of just take my phone out and record it. Or my friends passed away, I went to kind of hold on to that memory. And he said, "Hey, don't do that. No, don't do that. That's not what you do. Like, just reflect on it." And I put my phone away. But all it took was just that one person to kind of make me kind of, "Oh yeah, shit, meant to. We're at a flipping funeral. What are you doing?" And I was 13 years old. 13. This man is 30, whatever he is, close to 40 years old. And you're going to funerals and you're posting fit checks of your, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I have no words, really. I really have no words. Maybe it's not that big of a deal because, like he said, he wasn't really close with the grandma. Maybe as a family, this is what they do anyway. Because I know some cultures sort of celebrate the passing of somebody. It's kind of seen as like a good thing, right? That they're kind of passing over into a new kind of realm or whatever it may be. It's a chance to maybe celebrate and honor the person's life. But there is something quite, I think, like, because again, I never got the chance to meet my grandparents because my grandparents passed away before because they were back in Africa, and I just got a chance to meet them or anything. But there must be something quite important about a grandmother passing, because usually people have really close relationship with their grandmother. Either they're not close or they're really close. I don't really hear people saying they have like a meh relationship with their grandparents. It's usually you're super close to them or you're not close at all. And usually if you're not close because they just don't live near you or because maybe they're falling out with your parents. But usually they're kind of the people who would go out their way to maybe repair or fix the wrongs that they've done with your mum and dad. So they want to, so then you end up having a really close relationship with them. So usually you'd imagine that kind of person being the matriarch or whatever it may be of the family, or the real head, or whatever it may be, the one that held everything together. It'd be quite a somber moment when they do pass away, because you remember, damn man, grandma used to pick me up at football practice, even though she was tired and she'd have to walk with a cane. She'd come and watch me play. She'd want to play computer. You know what I mean? Like there'd be like you had these really interesting stories about this old lady that you somehow loved to bits, even though you had nothing in common, because she was, you know, somebody that you kind of saw your mum in, and she kind of saw her child, you know, there's whatever it may be. But it was just, all I'm saying is that you'd have so much things running in your head at that time, remembering all the things that happened, remembering all the time you lost, the times you didn't call back and regretting it, that you wouldn't even be thinking about Fitz. You'd just be like, oh God, man, I missed that person. I missed that person. So it's really sick to think that they went there with this. It's intriguing. It really is intriguing, because for sure these outfits aren't cheap. For sure these are designer. For sure they went there to go and party and stuff. It's just wild, man. Honestly, it's absolutely wild. It's especially after the prelude that we saw, where he was kind of taking the piss out of himself that he was gonna use the opportunity to go and sell merch. Or imagine he went and did a gig at a club around the corner quickly and did a little pop-in, and you know did like a few minutes on the stage whilst his grandma was being put into her grave. Like, it's like, oh, I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat? Do you think it's a big deal? Do you think people are over analyzing it? Would you have done this if you weren't that close with your parents anyway, or close to your grandparents or family members or whatnot? Would you be posting your outfit or a fit check or like a mirror check of your full body outfit? Like, is it something that you would have done? Let me know in the chat, because maybe I'm just, you know. Well, someone saying, Proven said, when my grandmother passed away, I told my cousin the same thing. You're here to pray for her, or get your Insta pic for your comments and hearts. I went suck on him. What do you mean? Also, as if like you didn't like it, I'm assuming, right, Proven? The DXJ says someone somewhere made a huge mistake with you if you can't grasp the depth of the situation by your mid-30s. Exactly. Now, as a human being, you should have enough awareness to know that this is unacceptable behavior. Exactly. I think even I should have known at 13. I'm not giving myself even excuses because I was 13. I probably should have known at 13. You shouldn't take a picture of your friend's you know, coffin being lowered into the grave. You shouldn't be doing that. But again, I was just thinking back at it. I was just so in my own head. I was just on autopilot, and it all took literally was my friend just being like nudging me, like, "Hey, what are you doing? Put your phone back in your pocket, man." And it's like, oh yeah, do you know what I mean? Quick, and I realized where I was again, that sort of thing. But I'm just thinking, like, would I even post would you even post an Instagram story? I'm on my way to like, what? Like, even that people would see it as weird. Like, you're making it about yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Main character syndrome again. You're sharing absolutely every little detail about your life that you probably don't need to share. Because even probably thinking about it, looking back, it was pretty weird that she would be sharing pictures of herself, you know, with the miscarriage thing in hospital in the first place anyway, right? I mean, that story I mentioned prior. But then again, to be fair, if you're a public figure, which she kind of is, I think she might be verified on Instagram too. And considering what that lady, Chrissy Teigen, did and other celebrities have done, and, you know, other women do on social media, it's kind of like a way to maybe deal with the issue in public, to kind of not, you know, make it, not normalize it, but let other women know also, hey, miscarriages happen. Even someone like me that's prominent, someone that you think is perfect, you know, this thing can happen to me. There's a kind of shared experience there. So maybe that's something that, you know, you can put to one side. But the funeral fits. Whew. The No Team Nomad says, there's a time and a place for everything. You are to pay respects, not to snap your pics for clout. Maybe he is there to practice his stand-up for the crowd. You'd be surprised. Imagine doing stand-up at a funeral. I remember the one thing I do remember, the funny clip I remember seeing. I don't know if you guys remember seeing it. It's a viral clip of some guy. I think he might be Irish. And I guess he was a comedian, and he kind of, and if I'm not mistaken, the theory or the story around it was that he had a terminal illness and he passed away, and he didn't want any of his friends to be sad, so he recorded a comedy set. Like, he recorded it inside, like, it was like a little, I guess they put a speaker inside the ground or in the coffin, and it played as the coffin was being lowered, and he was basically doing a comedy set, like, and it was making everyone laugh and the thing, and that was quite a real bittersweet moment because they all got to hear his voice one final time, but he was also kind of taking the piss out of them and ripping into people people that are, you know, maybe they're not there and stuff. It was quite fun, but that's the only time I've seen it. For the most part, you know, most people don't necessarily turn flipping funerals into an opportunity to do a set, but you know, maybe we're the ones who nah, he would kill finally, Mr. Singh. Oh, I don't know, man. He would kill. Get it. Nah, but anyway, that's I got nothing more to add to this. It really is just one of those things you look at and you're like, they did what? You just shake your head and you're like, oh my god, man, like. And again, like I said, if this was his wife's account, I would make more sense. I'd understand if it was on her account, but the fact that he posts on his, like, have you got 0 friends? Like none that would just reply back like, huh? Like loads of flux, you know, laughing, crying emojis, or like, you are absolutely insane. What are you doing? Like no one says that in your DMs. No one. There's none of those kind of comments exist. Like, I just don't understand it. I really don't understand how someone goes about living a life where you just do the most redacted things in general. No one calls you out because you pay them, right? Essentially, you got paid. You know, you pay your friends to be your friends, so they don't call you out because they continue want to be paid, and everyone else is scared because they don't want Joe Rogan to not invite them to their podcast like they did with Louis. Because that thing is real. Because it's no coincidence that Luis J. Gomez is probably the fiercest person to kind of, maybe even Big J, because Big J doesn't get invited too. So Luis J. Gomez and Big J go after Brendan more than Dave Smith does. So it's no surprise that when, you know, last time they did do Legion of Canada, last time I think Dave Smith mentioned a story where he tried to get those guys to come along with him, and Joe was like, no, only you. He didn't want him to bring Big J and Luis J. Gomez to the Joe Rogan Experience. So clearly, you know, insulting Brendan and making fun of him does lead to some real life consequences, which means you don't get invited onto one of the biggest shows in the world. Especially if you're a comedian, you kind of need to be in Joe Rogan's good graces if you want to amplify your voice and whatnot. So it does make some sense, but god damn it, man. And of course, here's Eric C telling me, where's your City shirt? My City shirt's never coming, sir, Eric C. It's never been there. Ever. Not in a million years, my friend. Not in a million years. And even though the city in Manchester might be temporarily blue right now, eventually the red dawn is coming. You know that. You know that yourself. You know that. As soon as Pep leaves, you guys are fucked. Let's be real. Let's be for real. Let's be real. You know that, my friend. You know that. So, continuing on here, I thought we'll take back what should we go talk here? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. So allegedly, I'm not too sure if this is still the case, but according to some people on the Final Kids subreddit, the TFATK Whiskey channel is gone. Oh, sorry, TFATK Instagram account has disappeared. It's over. It's been deleted. And at first I thought the person who mentioned it was saying it because they got blocked. I think usually when someone blocks you, you can't see their post or anything. I guess you just see their profile picture. But let me go back to this Instagram thing that I was checking and see. But I'm pretty sure it's gone. I'm pretty sure it's gone. It's disappeared completely because of some very cheeky, spicy firebacks from what's his face? From Big BGL. But if I type in TFATK, let's see if I got anything here. Okay, it's back. Maybe it's back then. Is it back? Let's see. Is it back now? It's eating coochie mandatory. Some of the things I have on my discovery page. Oh, it's back now. Now it's back. Okay, it was temporarily gone, but now it's back. And allegedly, people are hypothesizing the reason why it was taken down was because this picture specifically, BGL was going back and forth with certain people online and being quite spicy in the comments. And then also I think in the bio they didn't have something about it being like, oh, you have to be over 18 or something to drink, or something along those kind of lines. I think that was the case, right? But I do want to talk about the TFATK Instagram account because it's looking like it's being run by BGL at the moment. Right, that's what it's looking like. It's looking like it's being run by BGL at the moment, and I think it's really interesting and really funny, like just to kind of watch from afar, that this guy who kind of started out clearly trying to be some sort of actor or some sort of figure in Hollywood. That didn't clearly work out because the industry is brutal, or maybe he didn't have the chops for it. Who knows? I don't really give a shit. But then you end up kind of evolving into this kind of social media figure type person where he kind of created this sort of like persona for himself, this look, right? This kind of, you know, weird lion Mufasa type thing he has going on with the roids and the hair and stuff. And still, even with all that he's got going on, because, you know, physically he looks in good shape, he's muscular, he's got a massive head and good head of hair. You would imagine some of it. Oh, BGL stands for Big Gay Lion, by the way, Nick Morella. That's what people call him on the subreddit. And now they're starting to call him Marge. I don't know what the Marge thing is about. If someone knows what Marge is in the chat, why they call him Marge? I don't know what that is, but that's his new nickname. But the funny thing is about it is that still with the look that he has, or the look that he cultivated for himself, he still couldn't find a way to crack into Hollywood or to make that work for himself until Brendan Schaub came along, which is why I said from before, I kind of understand why he's such a avid Brendan Schaub defender, because essentially Brendan Schaub rescued his life, rescued his career. Without him, he would have absolutely nothing, because he's tried everything. If you go on the Find a Kid subreddit, or if you just go on Google and you do some searches around for his actual real name and you type in some stuff, you can find loads of stuff of him, like, you know, reels, him doing little skits, him doing, you know, some kind of stuff that you would deem to be acting, but it's not really acting. And you can see that this guy has been grinding and hustling for a long time. It hasn't worked out. And then basically Brendan came along and kind of rescued this guy's career in it. And now he's essentially indebted to him. But it's also funny that he's turned into essentially a full-time social media manager for the TFATK whiskey division of Brendan Schaub Empire, which I would say, looking at from the outside, not having any grasp on any figures, is probably the most, you say, is maybe the weakest side of Brendan's overall kind of empire and what he's trying to build. It's not really well thought out. The distribution for it was kind of all over the place. The launch for it was terrible. He doesn't necessarily promote it as much as he probably should do, considering how much money he probably spent in it in the first place. It doesn't seem like it's been well received by the wider public. It's obviously not it's probably not priced as well compared to, you know, competition out there, so people are not going to gravitate to loads of things in general. But it definitely, in my opinion, I think is the worst sort of vertical, people would say, in business that he has in his arsenal. It's definitely not something I would say he probably spends much time worrying about or pontificating about or stuff, or maybe generates him much money in the slightest. So the fact that he gave it to Big Joe maybe says everything, but also the fact that he's now the de facto social media manager of TFATK, and maybe overall the entirety of the, you know, what you call it, Fake Boy Studios or production stuff, is absolutely hilarious, because by all accounts that guy is very is also very sensitive. He seems to not be able to kind of take criticism on the chin and keep it moving. He kind of gets into these weird back and forths with people where he tries to be snarky but just comes across like he's definitely hurt, and just comes across like a lame-o. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just no way else to cut it. Like, you can't be 40-year-old or whatever he is, if he's 50, 60, I don't know, look the way he does and be going back and forth with people on social media. It just doesn't look good. You always look like a lame. Nothing you can say is ever going to make you look cool or come out of it looking like the badass. You're always going to look like an absolute wally. So the fact that he sits on social media and just bickers with people online is pretty funny, because for the most part he gets triggered and he gets goaded pretty easily into these kind of tirades, to the point where he might have led to the account being deleted permanently or for a short period of time. Now it's obviously back. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, obviously, you know, this is back now, so kind of the point's a bit mute, but I want to mention it anyway. It'll be interesting if in some time in the future, BGL's kind of, you know, recklessness and his inability to just not be on his phone and not to reply to people will in some way lead to the downfall of TFATK production, whatever it may be called, whatever that fucking shit is. In general, that would be hilarious if that happens. Like, somehow BGL sort of gets himself in a position where he keeps replying to things. He says something that he's not meant to say. He gets reported for hate speech or for bullying or whatever it may be, and he gets taken. That would be really. That would be kind of the icing on the cake of everything. Like, you brought somebody in to help you, and he ends up being the reason why you end up losing everything. It's just crazy, and it's just really, really crazy. You have to be kind of, and again, I think in LA in general, because I remember when I went out there in like 2017, 18, whatever it was, that was the first time I've ever been out somewhere where I felt like every conversation I was having was transactional. Now, again, it was my fault because I went to Hollywood. I went to all the places where people are trying to make it or whatnot. But I did feel like it was very transactional in all the places I went, especially in the clubs. And I also remember this one guy coming up to me who was like an older dude, like really older, slimy looking kind of guy with a ponytail. You know, those kind of older dudes with ponytails. And he was staying in the same hostel I was staying in. And I was staying in this hostel where it was basically predominantly, you know, covered with people who were transients that had money, because I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know there was some homeless people that exist who kind of bounce around from hostel to hostel, especially in the States. That's actually a thing they do. And I guess at the time, I think the hostel I went to in LA was, I think, the Generator hostel. I think it was Generator. It was that green type style, right? Logo. And I remember meeting a lot of transient people that kind of you would describe as homeless, but they have money to like go to hotels. And then I'd also meet a lot of people who were trying to make it, like actual actors who were in hostels because they had nowhere else to go. And then you'd also meet people like, and so that'd be doing it. And most of them were kind of young-ish. So this guy stuck out because he kind of looked like someone's dad. He looked very mature, but he also said he was a director. And it was the first time in my life I've seen somebody give me a business card. And you know, the business cards are usually, what's the size of a business card? Like a business card is maybe half of an iPhone, maybe that half, right? Small, right? That kind of size. He gave me a business card, and on the business card he had loads of mini flyers of the films that he's directed, these little mini independent films that he's done, these short films he's done. Like, imagine taking a flyer that you do for a movie and then trying to shrink it down to like, what, 100 pixels or something, either way, and then printing it on a card and then laminating it. You could hardly see the words. It was like insane. Like, and he obviously had these details in front. I was like, what? This is how you're promoting your short movies? Like, what are you doing, bro? You're printing, you're kind of shrinking the size of your portraits that you probably blew up and put outside of buildings and whatnot, or inside store windows, and you're putting them on a business card. Like, I was like, oh my days. I was like, okay, you look like a dad, you got a ponytail, and you're handing out laminated business cards in a hotel full of kids who are like under 21 and transient people. Like, you're definitely up to no good. You know what I mean? And it obviously did transpire later down the line that he was one of those guys that when he gets drunk, he starts like doing the whole, like, you know, when he holds girls, he does that thing what some guys do when they get drunk, where they hold down the flipping the curvature. They're always kind of passing around that way and doing the whole curve handing thing. It made complete sense, you know what I mean? But it's like, Jesus Christos, man. So when I see somebody that's a social media manager, again, I'm not sure if somebody is out there watching this, I do apologize for this, but if you're a social media manager at the age of 40, life hasn't probably gone well for you. Do you know what I mean? It probably hasn't, especially if you're doing it as a job. If you're doing it for your own thing that you set up, and you know, you got your own food truck, or you got your flipping scaffolding company or your construction company, and you're doing okay, that's your own thing. But if you've been hired from somebody to do social media management at 40 years old and you're enjoying it, going back and forth with people, there is definitely something wrong with you, 100%, because no person at that age should be happy to be spending numerous or countless hours of their life, you know, bickering around, especially people who for the most part go on TFATK account, on the Fire and the Kid, on Brendan Schaub's account, just to come and troll him. They're not actually going there to, you know, be nice. So you're going actively engaging with people who don't like it. I don't know, it just blows my mind. But again, that also represents the brutality of Hollywood, man. Let's be honest, the brutality of Hollywood. This guy went out there with a dream, it didn't work out, and now he's essentially a social media manager for Brendan Schaub. He's been in Hollywood far longer. He's obviously got way more, you know, credit in the bank or whatever else you want to call it. But in the end, life kind of spits you out and chews you out, or chews you up and spits you out. And now here you are doing social media management for flipping Thiccc whiskey. Like, yikes. Hollywood is absolutely brutal. Like, it's absolutely cutthroat. Like, there is no easy way around saying those kind of things. Like, it's absolutely cutthroat. It really, really is. So, you know, in a weird way, you know, big him up because he kind of figured it out in some ways to kind of keep his head above water. So you can't necessarily hate on that, innit? You can't necessarily hate on that. So next thing to talk about, give a little break to that if I can find it. Yeah, this is the one. This is pretty cool, right? And I thought this is pretty cool. What was I said? Al Gorim said that was me, and those cars cost me a ton to print. Oh, mate. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, BGL sounds like he's got one of those apps. You know, BGL sounds like he's got one of those apps so that give you a word of the day. You meant to try and use it in a sentence, like those kind of apps that you meant to use, like a not even like a Wordle, but like it's kind of it kind of spits out a word from a thesaurus that you're meant to use in your everyday life to kind of improve your vocabulary and shit. That's what he basically sounds like in day to day. And of course, most gym guys anyway, most gym bros are either really laid back, like bros who just go, like there's a few I follow. What's his name? Fuck, I forgot his name. English dude. There's a few that I follow who just are bodybuilder guys who just fly around the world, go to great gyms, party, have banging kind of, model kind of, proper like half soccer ball type breasted women around them all the time, and just share tips on how to like eat well, train well, and sleep well. That's all they do. Then the other side of bodybuilders, or the other side of the fitness industry, they think they're flipping shamans. Do you know what I mean? There's no real middle ground. There's no just like normal guy working out. It's either you're just a Chad bro or you're a shaman type. There is no just kind of normal. I guess maybe that's probably what people want on the internet. But, and the shaman types literally think because they work out and because they eat chicken and rice every day, that somehow they have unlocked some, other realm of existence, right? They're existing on another plane. They are enlightened to another way because they experiment with drugs and whatnot. It's just a very, very strange way to kind of do things personally for me. But hey, what you gonna do? So anyway, Joe Rogan was on Two Bears One Cave. And I do implore you guys to check it out because it was really funny, like really funny. Tom Segura, I think, is really underrated in terms of a podcast host and just a podcast in general, in the same way Andrew Santino is. I think he's absolutely hilarious. I know people, I will not agree and think I'm sucking up to these people, but I don't. I honestly do think you should check out those guys' podcasts. Are definitely really good. And Joe Rogan was a guest on the Two Bears One Cave because I guess Bert's out there touring and doing his thing because he says like he doesn't like being at home or even being around his friends, so it makes complete sense. And Joe Rogan was really good on this show. Tom Segura was absolutely hilarious, and essentially Tom got Joe to maybe clarify his remarks about when to shoot the homeless people. I remember when Tom was last on Joe Rogan's podcast and they got into a conversation about homelessness, and they made a kind of a throwaway joke about shooting homeless people, but I got the feeling that even though it was a throwaway joke, that Joe kind of was serious about it. Do you know what I mean? He's like, hey, if a homeless person touches my shit, I'm going to blow their head off. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't ramping at all, but Tom got him to basically clarify his comments, and I thought the joke at the end by flipping Tom caught me off guard, but I absolutely laughed my head off when I heard it the first time. So I'll play the clip now for you.
But it's like, I think if someone just decides that you're a problem and they put you in like a cat, and the thing is like, how much leeway do employees have? Because it's clearly not being done by AI. This stuff is very subjective. So a lot of these kids that are working in these tech companies, they're coming straight from universities and they're super woke. And they think that people like DeStefano or people like you or me are a real problem.
Yeah.
People who joke around about stuff. This is a real problem.
Yeah.
And joking around about serious things that can't be joked about.
Oh my God. The thing that, you probably lose track of this all the time because it happens to you like every day. But
yeah, someone said this here in the comments, which is hilarious. I just remembered this actually. Good to bring it up, Proven187. He still hasn't been on TFATK. You know how hilarious that is? You know how funny that is? The way they suck him off, like, the way they've got his flipping cock and balls in his mouth. They have pictures of him on their flipping wall. That really cringy one of all the guns pointing towards him like he's going to get cancelled. Like, ugh. Again, I love Joe Rogan. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. I started my own podcast because of Joe Rogan and Bill Burr and a few other people. I love those guys. I really do. But the way that they suck up to them is really gross and makes me kind of dislike the fact that I like the guy so much because there's other people out there who kind of suck him up to him so much, which is really, really disgusting. But regardless, they act as if they're like really good friends, like legitimately friends. Like, oh, we're friends. We hang out all the time. I text him all the time. He's my mentor, blah, 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 blah. Joe this, Joe that, Joe that. But when it comes down to it, and when it comes down to, because again, they make it seem like, oh, just because I'm not on your show doesn't mean we're not friends, or they make it seem like the fans read too much into stuff, whatever it may be. But let's be real. You know who they like to hang out with. It's pretty evident that Joe likes to talk to Tim Dillon. It's pretty evident that Joe likes to hang out with Thea Vaughn. It's pretty evident that Joe likes to hang around with Ari Shafir and the Protect Our Park guys, the Shane Gillis, the Mark Normans. He loves to be around them. It's pretty evident, right? He likes that CIA guy. I forgot his name. He gets him on the show quite often. It's pretty evident he likes David Goggins, sorry. It's pretty evident he loves Jordan Peterson. There's people that he likes, Red Band, Tony Hinchcliffe. He loves those people, and he spends time around them all the time. He gets them on his show when he can, as often as he can get them on his show. So the ones that he's not on their show, obviously, because it's fair to say, unless they're distance covered, even Joe even managed to get on Flagrant, and he's met Andrew Schultz way after TFATK guys. If anything, Brandon introduced Joe to Andrew Schultz. He made him aware of this guy, called Andrew Schultz, doing some cool things on YouTube. And since then, Andrew Schultz has, somehow managed to get Joe on his show before they went on to Fight the Kid, which is pretty hilarious.
When I did your podcast last, and we talked about homeless people.
Oh yeah,
it said you go. I think we should shoot him, and I go. I like your ideas.
Yeah,
and then news outlets.
Yeah,
they took it was end quote. It was like, he says this, Rogan says this, Tom says, I like your idea. These guys are endorsing violence against and then they go, and then it happened. A homeless person was killed. And this is what these guys are.
Under fire
about.
For joke intended as political jab.
Yeah.
I was under fire. I wasn't even aware I was under fire. That's what's hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't even have any idea. Didn't pay attention. Didn't affect me at all.
You know what? And I actually believe him. This is the thing where I think is hilarious about Brendan. Brendan loves to kind of just parrot Joe in terms of, I don't read comments into this, but Joe legitimately doesn't. You can tell he doesn't because of how he kind of carries himself and the things that he says. He generally doesn't read them because I think at this point, if he did read them, it would probably make his head explode. He can't because he's got too much input coming in. He probably is better for him, for his show, to have somebody else read those comments and relay back some of the key touch points that he maybe can take away from it and things that he can reflect on. But in terms of sitting and going through comments, I don't think he does. He doesn't necessarily read the articles, nothing. I wouldn't surprise me if he actually does. I actually believe him. He's one person that I really do believe that doesn't do it. Okay, he doesn't need to either because, he's basically, richer than God himself.
I got messages of like, I cannot believe that I supported you and that you advocate violence against the homeless.
You got messages?
Yeah, and I didn't even...
Repulsive.
I didn't even tell most of those people.
Look at this repulsive podcast comments.
That you remember...
But we should just explain what we actually said.
Right.
We were actually saying is that if you shot them, no one would care because they don't do anything about violence.
Right.
That's what we're saying. We weren't saying you should shoot the homeless people. We were saying, like, you can't touch their stuff.
Right.
Like, they're allowed to leave.
In L.A., that's considered actual personal property.
Yeah, and they'll arrest you.
Arrest you for touching their stuff.
I go, but they won't do anything if you shoot them.
Exactly.
I go, maybe we should shoot them.
And there's a huge spike in actual violent crime.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I was part of the group that paid to have the homeless people that were on Cesar Chavez here in Austin drown in Lake Travis.
Honestly, when I saw it the first time, that misdirect was fucking brilliant, man. Honestly, Tom is fucking hilarious. I don't care. I love Tom. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Your Mum's House. Big fan of everything that he does for the most part. He makes Two Bears, One Cave unbearable to watch because Bert Crash is a fucking nightmare and an adult baby. But that guy is funny. He's legitimately funny, man. That was fucking brilliant. That misdirect fucking caught me off guard. I swear to God it did. But yeah, hilarious as always. Anyway, let's move on. Next thing I want to talk about, of course, was the fucking epic chat. Oh man, this again. You gotta love Schaub, yeah. You have to love Schaub. So let's go back to the front. Oh, let's talk this actually. So I think, yeah, let's play this clip first. This is the beginning of the Find the Kids show, right? The recent one. And if I'm not mistaken, what did they do here? The beginning of the Find the Kids show. What was it talking about? Was it about something about his grandmother's injury or something? And he made it all about himself. I don't know what it is. I forgot what the point was. How I had this clip. But let me play it anyway and see if I can remember why I had this clip. I should have wrote down some notes. But this is the latest episode of the Find the Kids show. Let's see if we can kind of suss out what was going on here.
I mean, over 100 people.
Yeah,
just shops.
Shops.
Just balls deep in shops.
Wow.
Maybe realizing like, oh fuck, I don't come back enough.
When she was born, women had just gotten the vote.
Yeah.
that gives you some
old school. And they were showing they had like a whole like collage of her when she was younger. God, dog dime piece.
Well, you know, your mom's a dime piece.
Yeah.
Your mom is a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
I like that picture you sent, or I think you posted on Instagram.
I posted
her cheekbones.
Dude, I posted a video because my mom broke her leg, spiral fracture. Horrible injury.
Oh my God.
But I get that, you know, she watches all the podcasts and stuff. She's talking about Theo leaving and, you know, she loves Theo and loves all you guys.
There she is.
And then she's like, she goes, fill me in. Like, we haven't talked. What's going on?
Oh yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up. Okay, this is why I had to bring it up. I got it. No, it's not no problem. The Dumbo press challenge is coming. This is why I wanted to bring this up. So I wanted to bring up this clip because in this clip, Brendan mentions, you know, him meeting up with his mum and hanging out, family time, doing that good stuff, right? But then somehow, I just remember, I forgot it again. I'm trying too much coffee. God damn it. I just forgot it now. What was it? What happens here? He speaks about the fracture. Oh, that's it. So he's obviously brings up spending some time with his family, cool, whatever it may be. But I was thinking when I was watching this clip in the beginning, he must be the only stand-up comedian I've ever seen in my entire life, especially on podcasts, that legitimately enjoys going through clips on their own Instagram or rewatching clips, especially little advertising ones or little kind of skits and stuff that they do on their Instagram, and watching them back on his own podcast. It's one thing when you go on someone else's show and they want us, and maybe the guest on that show, the host on that show says, "Oh my God, I saw that thing you posted on the Instagram. That was fucking hilarious." And then you're a bit like embarrassed, like, "Nah, it wasn't nothing. I was just doing it in my car." And then that person plays it because they want to laugh and they want to show their audience what you do. That's one thing. But this guy actually goes on his own Instagram page, like he fucking shoehorns in a topic that gets him to flip him, put his own Instagram page on the screen, on the Jumbotron, so that he can sit back and bloody laugh and smile at himself and legitimately watch his face throughout the entire time that Chin brings up his own page to look at the post that he basically uploaded. Just watch how happy and kind of elated he is to see his own self on his own social media. It's fucking psychotic, mate. It really is.
With touring, and I was like, "What do you mean? It starts up next week, Mom. Big touring up major cities. You know, we go to Boston and Salt Lake and Calgary and all that." And
humble
like,
brag.
"Oh, yeah. Is Mark Harley gonna be there?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Is Mark Harley gonna be there?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's on the road. You know, he does all the stuff for me." She goes, "Oh man, I tell you, I go, hold on, save that. I'm gonna do a promo, Mom. I go, just let me get through the dates and you do your thing, all right?"
I didn't see it.
Yeah, and so I'm doing.
I thought it was just a picture.
No.
Oh, bring that up.
Video. Get younger though, you a little bit, right?
Bring that up.
In Denver, visiting my family. I'm here at my mama's house.
Look at his face. Look at his face. Fair enough, it's his mum in the picture too, so it makes sense why he'd maybe be happy about it. But look how happy he is to watch himself on his own podcast. Like, this is content this is like, if people say the stuff that I do or the stuff that most people do on YouTube, where they're sort of like, especially this sort of stuff where you're watching podcasts and commenting on it, is like the lowest form of content creation, right? Because it doesn't require any kind of creativity in the slightest at all, zero. I get it. But what's this then? Going on your Instagram account and laughing at the little some throwaway thing you did with your mum. Like, excuse me? Like, look at how happy, like legitimately happy is that he was able to kind of squeeze. Because he mentions before in the story that his mum said something along the lines of, "Oh, we haven't seen each other in a while. Give me the lowdown. Like, give me what's that, like, download me the information. Like, give me the 411. Let me know what's happened in your life." So instead of sitting there and spending some actual time with your parent and having some actual meaningful conversations and catch up time, he spends it, like squeezing content out of her. Make it so he can generate more clicks. It's absolutely, look how happy he is. He's happy as Larry.
House. You guys should know your boy's hitting the road after I leave my home. In Denver. I didn't tell her anything. In Boston next week. I said, just let me get through my dates.
I scrolled through. I didn't watch this. I was like, I don't care.
Then after that, October 13th to the 15th.
That's a heavy jug of whiskey in the morning. Heavy jug.
I'm in San Jose.
Heavy pour, sorry, not heavy jug. Heavy pour.
Get some San Jose. Then right after that, I am in Salt Lake City, Utah. Wise Guys were my favorite. Then my mom's chilling. In October in Calgary. Calgary's the 27th and 28th.
Imagine having your mom sit there whilst you're fucking running through your fucking comedy dates. Legit, like, honestly, this is like the equivalent of me asking my mum to sit there whilst I'm doing my mix on a live stream. Just stand there, mum, and try and look cute or something, or try and not look annoying. Like, do you know how, like, what are you doing? Spend some time with you. Like, if you're not going to spend time with them, don't spend time with them, but don't waste their precious time they have on this planet and your time you have with them by having them sit on a couch with you whilst you go through your fucking dates. Like, this is fucking insane. Comedians are on another level. And again, this is not even this I don't think is only limited to him. I think a lot of comedians will find this funny. A lot of comedians will find the notion or the premise that they got their mum to sit down there whilst they went through their dates really funny, or get their mum to do their dates for them. Like, oh, see, we always start promoting comedians the same shameless. We'll start promoting. It's like, shameless is not even the word you can describe them. It's just like another level of like redactedness, shameless. Look at the smile. Have you seen this man smile about anything in his life more than that? Literally. Have you ever seen him smile more than that? Like, even with young kids, he smile. But when he sees himself, right, stung by 1,000 bees, as Thea would say, right, looking like he's got flipping 17 million, tobacco pouches in his mouth. Look like he got smashed in the head with a hockey stick. Look how happy he is. He is gleeful, ecstatic, over the moon to hear himself go through dates. It's a wild guy, man.
Hey, come get some something. Thiccboy.com.
Hey, Brennan, so is Mark Harley going to be there too with you?
I mean, yeah, Mark, yeah, he's on the... Watch how red my face gets.
So this is a joke that he set up, right? It's a joke that he kind of heard his mum do. Imagine coaching your mum and setting her up to do a joke on your Instagram about your friend to promote your Instagram. Oh, if they can't monetize their family, like, it's the same thing. And if you can't monetize his family and go to explicit detail about how much his daughter's, I don't know, period flipping upset him or threw him for a loop, or if you can't really go into detail about how much he hates his wife's his wife's friends, he doesn't necessarily want to be around them. If you can't siphon stories out of them to go on stage and to kind of embarrass them in everyday life but make himself funny, I don't want to spend time with you. Same with these guys. Like, if I can't make it into a bit that I can play, or I can mention on the podcast, why am I spending time with you? Like, why? It's a waste of time. Like, if it doesn't make content, it doesn't make sense.
Oh my God, he is such a stud muffin. Mark, I have a broken ankle right now, but if you were here and I didn't have this broken ankle, I'd be jumping all over you, boy.
Okay. Look at my face, I've read it. Oh boy.
What? All respect to Mama Schaub, but what? All respect to Mama Schaub, but what? What? You want BGL to dick down your mum? Is that what we're doing now? You want your mum to be face down, ass up, whilst BGL is ramming himself inside your... Is this what we're getting at? Because that's the joke, right? If we want to make jokes, let's make jokes. Let's go down the road. Let's go down the road. Let's turn the right. Let's go through the field. Let's go up the tree. Let's look for a pastor's new. Let's go down the tree. Let's cross the river, right? Let's jump over the lake, right? Let's hop on some rocks. Let's actually go for the joke if we're going to go for it. You want your mum to get dicked down by BGL. You want Chin to be holding his little camera, his little red camera, as BGO goes ham. Is that what you actually want? Is that what we're doing here? We are including our mums into jokes with our colleagues, with our employees, and in this case, like, excuse me? Excuse me? Honestly, these guys are fucking... Their brains don't work the way that it works for us. Honestly, they don't work the same way. And I'm happy they don't, because all these guys are, oh, you're civilians, you don't get it. Civilians understand comedians' humor. I'm happy I'm a civilian. I'm happy I'm a regular dude who just works and just streams for fun. I'm happy. Because if being funny and if being successful meant I had to go and flipping squeeze my family for content, I had to go and siphon off the time that I'm having with them to create flipping videos online to kind of engage my fans in order to sell tickets. Because imagine, he's doing this to sell tickets. He's using his mum to sell tickets. He's essentially pimping at his mum to sell tickets. Imagine that. Like, the levels of grossness have not been seen in any kind of level, in any kind of shape or way. Oh my God, man.
This is weird. All right, see you guys out there.
Did he tag Mark in it? I guess he tagged him in the flipping caption too, right?
Can you blame her?
That's
Hey,
great.
boy, I'll be jumping all over you, boy. I went, well, don't call him boy.
Look at this guy. Like, this is an actual real human being who styles their hair in this way. Like, honestly, Hollywood is brutal. Hollywood is brutal to the point where you're like, because you'd imagine there has to come a point where you just have to give up. I think Tim Dillon even says it a lot of the time, right? Just give it up, man. Go get a job, cut your hair, you know what I mean? Have a family and just settle down and, you know, at least have something to show for your time on this planet, as opposed to trying to chase this. I don't know what you're chasing, whatever it may be, but imagine legitimately looking like this. Just imagine. God almighty, man. But yeah, I saw that clip in the beginning. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. So big up him using his mum as content, I guess. You got to do what you have to do to keep the lights on. I guess it is what it is, isn't it? But oh my God. But anyway, enough about that. Let's move on to the actual pièce de résistance, which is going to be this fucking nothing burger again. These are all nothing burger situations that Brendan seems to get himself involved in, that he always ends up making far worse than what they actually are. So there's this guy that Brian Callen, I guess, has now befriended and made be part of his group. I guess Brian does, again, as a long-time fan, I remember Brendan have his issue with Brian. He does have a tendency he does have some sort of ability. Maybe it's the fact that he moved around a lot and he's a bit of a people pleaser and he kind of sucks up to people. I don't really know sure what it is, but there's something about Brian where he seems to attract like randoms. He seems to attract people who kind of are trying to make here, who are stragglers, whatever. He seems to just be a magnet for those type of people. Maybe he's just a nice guy. I don't really know what the reason is, but he seems to always have a new kind of person he's sort of like quote unquote mentoring or helping out or taking on the road with it, or just have some new friend. And I guess he's got this new guy whose name is, if I'm not mistaken, Nick Simmons. Some guy called Nick Simmons, who's a comedian and also happens to be a part-time bodybuilder, a hobbyist bodybuilder. I'm not too sure, whatever it may be. But he's a bodybuilder, but he also does comedy, which is pretty cool, right? You don't really see that too often. A comedian who's kind of really serious about flipping, comedy, and also works out a bunch as well. So Brian's got him on the road with him, shares some experiences, blah, 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 blah. But the funny thing that you notice straight away when Brian speaks about this guy called Nick Simmons is that Brendan doesn't react very well to it. For whatever reason, he seems to have a real stick up his butt, or he seems to get very agitated and aggravated when Brian has friends that he kind of talks about in glowing terms. I'm not really sure what it is. And I remember the same thing happened with Malik. When Brian was first hanging out with Malik, and I remember a few episodes where he'd get Malik's Instagram up on the screen, and Brian would be saying something about his body because, you know, Brian's obsessed with men's bodies, even though he professes he's not gay. And he'd be looking at, oh, look how jacked he is, look he's working out, look he's boxing, look whatever, look how athletic he is. And Brendan would always kind of go out of his way to either not say anything and be quiet, or throw some kind of, you know, barb his way, or kind of throw some kind of backhanding compliment. But it was clear that he was kind of, I'm not sure if he was jealous, whatever it may be, just put off by it. So for some reason, Brian got this Nick guy to challenge Brendan to do this kind of workout thing, right, where he was meant to do these dumbbell presses, right? And it was something that I legitimately think wasn't even that big of a deal. It was just like a funny, innocuous little thing. I'm gonna quickly pull it up here, where he basically says, hey, here's this guy, I got my friend, he works out a bunch. Brendan, you obviously work out a bunch, you're always in that flipping Bradley Martin gym, hanging out and doing all those cool workouts. I've got this friend who also works out a bunch and is very serious about it. He wants to challenge you to a little friendly back and forth, similar to the ice bucket challenge or something along those kind of lines. Nothing that big, it's not that big of a deep. So it's not that deep of a deal, really, or that big of a deal, deep of a deal. What am I talking about? You'd think it was something that is kind of innocuous, but for whatever reason, Brendan didn't respond to it well enough at all. He didn't respond to it well in the slightest. But this is the original clip where Brian is in the gym with Nick Simmons and a few other people, and they're challenging Brendan Schaub to some dumbbell presses, seated dumbbell presses, right? So this is it, taken from the Instagram account of Brian, taken, of course, from the Find a Kid subreddit.
Okay, we're in Fuel Gym in Coeur d'Alene. That's Chad Schmidt, who is the manager. We got Kevin Mack, we got Nick Simmons.
All right, Brendan, you said that my lift was not impressive. You said you could do 120 pounds easy, and I'm not a body.
Hold on. So 120 pounds. The last time I did dumbbell curls, right, was maybe a week ago. And the max, because one of my elbows is a bit jammy, but I generally do mostly barbells, so I don't usually do like dumbbells. But the last time I did it, right, I was struggling with, what was it? Was it like, I think it was 10 kg dumbbell. I was struggling with that, right? I was struggling with a 10 kg dumbbell on one hand, like doing like, you know, those ones, and obviously, you know, curls, the hammer ones, whatever it may be, right? I was doing that in the gym. I was struggling with 10 kg. This guy does the equivalent. Let's see. I'm just typing this into my fucking unit conversion. He does 120. He does 54 kg. I can't imagine what a 54 kg dumbbell feels like on both hands, trying to press that upwards. That's fucking impressive. I'm struggling with 10. This guy does 50. Beast of a stuff. So again, it's just admirable just to see, because again, he's obviously jacked to fuck, so clearly it's cool, but it's not something to get embarrassed about, because, you know, if you work your way up to lifting weights, you could do that too. It's not difficult to do. But when you start off lifting like I am and you're doing only 10, when seeing someone doing 54, it's pretty impressive.
Bodybuilder, I'm just a guy who
To most people, it should be impressive.
likes fitness, so you should be able to outdo me easy. So I'm going to do this weight, and let's see if you can do it. Challenge on you. You have a couple of days to do it. Let's go.
Challenge on you, Brennan Schaub. Let's see what happens. I'm excited. Second attempt, babe. Here we go. Second attempt. 1, 2, go.
And the thing that's impressive about it is too, from again being a somewhat frequent gym goer myself, you know, more than 3 times a week, sometimes 6 times a week, is that he has impeccable form. Like, he has really, really good form for somebody lifting such heavy weight. Like, he's not really stressing as much or straining as much or wobbling as much or pivoting or shaking up. He's really, really strong. Like, clearly somebody that, even though he says he's a hobbyist and doesn't really take it, he just does it for fun, he clearly spends a lot of time in the gym. This guy is fucking jacked.
Push it. Push it. Push it. Good. 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 More. Push it.
Oh.
Okay, we're in Fuel.
So, if you saw that, any regular person will see that as just like a friendly jibe, a friendly bit of competition, just to kind of get you going, especially if you're an actual sports person, athlete, fitness head. It's just a nice kind of like, you know, throwaway little challenge someone put towards you. Nothing that serious, not something to kind of get your niggas in a twist. But the interesting thing about it for me is that Brendan legitimately didn't respond well to this at all. Like, he saw this like as an affront, as an insult. And why do I say that as an affront, as an insult? Because look at this clip and look at his face. I got this here. As they pulled up the clip on the screen, instantly from minute 1, his face is like that. Can you see that in the chat? Can you see that behind there? I'll move the little chat box away, but can you see that? Look at his face. Instantly, he's already like frowning and putting the little, you know, sad puppy like, man, I don't, whatever. He's not that impressive. Fuck him, whatever. He's not happy about it in the slightest already. The thing hasn't even played it. He's already not look at it. But then also notice BGL's face, which is next to my face here on the screen, and notice how quiet he is the entire time that Brendan is hating on the guy. Just keep your eye on BGO, because clearly BGO is impressed by that dude's strength and thinks he's pretty strong. And clearly it's a funny little challenge, and he's not really threatened by it in the slightest. But Brendan's ego or whatever it may be just cannot handle the fact that Brian might have a friend who's a comedian too, who might be stronger than him. Like, it's just insane. Let's just say.
I look great, don't I?
Second attempt.
Okay.
Play, pause it. Pause it.
Here we go.
Play, pause it.
He's shouting at Chin. Number one. He's not like being funny. He's shouting at him. Hey, pause it. Pause it. You can't even say pause. Say pause. But yeah, he's not happy.
I know what you're going to say.
Hold on. Let me do this. You got wristbands on. You got wrist straps on.
So
doesn't count.
Hold on.
Doesn't
Hold
count.
on.
Doesn't count.
Look at BGO's face. He's not looking up once. Look at BGO's face. He's kind of embarrassed. His boss is jealous of a man he's never met because he happens to be able to press 120 pounds in each arm seated. That's it. Not that big of a deal. But clearly for Brendan, the jealousy, the inadequacy, the whatever it may be is building up so much that he's not even okay with just watching this and just keeping. He can't do it.
The first time he didn't, and he only did 9. This is a second attempt, and he goes, "My wrist gave out. Do you have any wrist reps?"
Doesn't count.
But he did this.
Doesn't count.
He did this 9 times.
Doesn't count. Don't matter.
Without wristbands.
Doesn't matter. I've never seen that.
Oh, now hold on.
Doesn't count.
He did it without wristbands.
No, I only see wristbands.
That's a second.
This is him being look. This is a serious face too. This is a serious face. That's a man that's legitimate. Look at it. This is a man that's legitimately pissed and upset. He's really pissed off and angry about it. Really angry.
Attempt.
No, it doesn't matter.
It took 2 minutes.
Doesn't matter. If you have
Now,
wristbands,
let's
doesn't count.
I can show you.
I'm saying that. Now, I don't know what level of athletics he's done.
Oh, you gotta love that little backhanded compliment, right? You gotta love that. I don't know what level. Was it D3 or 4? Did he play in his college? Do you know what I mean? You couldn't get more dismissive. And I love the fact that he's trying to be insulting, but he can't even say athleticism, or athlete. Say it again. Let's rewind again. Let me hear him say it.
Athletics he's done.
Athletics.
Athletics he's done.
Oh,
I can show you.
Let's go again.
I'm saying that. Now I don't know what level of athletics he's done, but at University of Colorado, no wristbands, no back belts, none of that.
So University of Colorado is now the litmus test and the benchmark for strength. Look at Brian's face, by the way. Just look at Brian. Look how embarrassed Brian is that his friend and somebody he mentored has the inability to not take stuff as just a joke. Brian now is wondering, like, what's happened to you, dude? Are you for real? Are you legitimately jealous and pissed off that this random dude who you didn't know existed yesterday is able to lift more than you? Like, does that even matter? Like, what? Look at his face. Brian's legitimately confused. And Brendan's here trying to convince Brian that he's a strength guy, he's a muscle guy, that he knows more, that he's not impressive. You shouldn't be impressed by him. It's basically his form of what's that thing called? His form of hypnosis. Why are you impressed that somebody can lift 100 pounds in each hand, strict press seated? Why would that be impressive?
Well, he did this exactly.
Doesn't matter.
Without
Doesn't matter.
wristbands.
I don't see it.
2 minutes before.
I don't see it.
Come on, you got.
I don't believe you.
What?
I don't.
See, now he starts to laugh, but he's not taking it seriously. Brian has to make a joke out of it to make him laugh and giggle. Before that, Brendan was not laughing. Look at that face. That's not a laughing 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 face. And that's not a laughing face. He wasn't happy. And again, he did that thing that I always say, and I watch a lot of his videos. Whenever he's upset or pissed off, he does this thing where he kind of bites the bottom or the side of his cheek. That he's kind of really, trying to suppress his Chris Benoit rage. It's in there. That's where it is. But here, Brian, obviously, the consummate adult, the actual dad in the room, right? He's able to kind of diffuse the situation by trying to make a joke out of it. And then Brendan kind of loosens up a little bit.
No wristbands, no back belts, none of that.
Well, he did this exactly.
Doesn't matter.
Without
Doesn't matter.
wristbands.
I don't see it.
2 minutes before.
I don't see it.
Come on, you got.
I don't believe you.
What?
I don't believe you.
Are you calling me a liar?
100%.
Dude!
Yeah, sorry.
That's an outrage.
Yes.
You can't just dismiss it.
Well,
now.
I see him with wristbands.
Let me see it. Let me see him do it first.
And also, the funny thing is, at the end of this, was the challenge even accepted? Did he even agree to do it in the gym himself and do it? I don't think he did he? Let's actually check the YouTube video and see it. But I don't think he actually even accepted the challenge of that he even set forth. It was just like, nah, you didn't do it properly. Let me see if I can find it on the clip. I think it's around 24, 25. There we go. It's 25 minutes. It's around here, right? Let's see if he even... I don't think he even accepted the challenge. He just kind of didn't do anything. And BGO doesn't say a word the whole entire time because he obviously finds it somewhat impressive. So let's go back to the video itself and see. Did he even accept the challenge? I don't think he did. Let's go. Yes, I'm doing it. Let's skip forward a bit. Okay, there's another video.
To the other one?
No.
Hold on. What? They're going to be...
Yes.
You can't just dismiss it.
Well, I
now.
see him with wristbands.
Let me see it. Let me see him do it for a sec.
He has some shoulders on, though.
He does. He's got some...
Hey, skips leg day, though, huh?
No, he's got big legs.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. We just heard it. Look at that. You couldn't even give the guy a compliment without insulting him. You know what's funny as well? Because he always says that people hate on him without a reason and they're haters and he's never been a hater and he's always challenging people. It's like, no, actually, you might be one of the biggest haters ever, legitimately. And if you had imagine if Brendan was Joe Rogan, what damage he could do to people's careers, legitimately. If he was Joe Rogan, like he would legitimately, like he would hold a grudge, he would be petty, he would make your life a living hell. If he already was willing to threaten Bobby Lee with phone calls to Joe Rogan because Bobby Lee dared to be upset that he tried to fuck his missus, imagine what he would do if he was Joe Rogan. Imagine what he would do. And look at even this, he compliments his shoulders, but then immediately says he skips leg day. Like, oh, clearly he's not that strong. Like,
he has some shoulders on, though.
He does. He's got some...
Hey, skips leg day, though, huh?
No, he's got big legs.
Hater.
Let's go. Push it. Push it. Push it. Good.
Hey, who's the guy going, push it? Yeah, push it. Good.
It's a strength coach. He's even hating on the people not on camera. He's hating on the guys behind the scenes. Oh my God, this guy is worse than Red Bar. He's worse than me. He's worse than anybody. He legitimately hates everyone that doesn't suck him off. Legitimately. Brian's got a new little toy boy that he's infatuated with, right? And clearly, let's look at the kid's Instagram account, right? He clearly looks after himself. He clearly looks like somebody people enjoy to be around. He's got his own YouTube channel, I think it looks like, by the looks of it, right? He posts his content online. He's got, look at these cool before after pictures he takes. Clearly somebody that takes care of himself, eats well, promotes himself pretty decently online. You know, does, you know, the old bodybuilder fitness kind of content, got his clips running on his channel with all the things that you're meant to do on your social, you know, when you're promoting your social media by having flipping, you know, subtitles and banners and stuff like that. Got his friends on there featuring people that are prominent in social, like just a typical guy that you would imagine people would be nice to look. He's even got Brian Callen on his show to talk about stuff on there. So clearly Brendan is either jealous that he's got a new boy toy or just jealous that he seems to be, even though he does this only for fun and he's not trying to be an athletic, whatever he was saying, athlete, he just seems to be pretty cool. So let's go back to the video.
Good. Oh, one more. This is his second attempt, by the way. He did 9 before this. Couldn't get it.
That was 8?
It was 9. Okay, we're in. Now go back to the other one.
No, let me see
let's
Mark's.
see Mark's now.
Oh, there's Mark right
See
there.
what I mean? Mark's a little bit more.
Oh, no, that's shoulder press, Bubba. 100%
That
shoulder
looks
press.
like incline.
No.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like it. No,
That's
is it the same one?
Don't be mad at
Am I wrong?
the angle of my elbow.
exact same way.
It's,
Okay.
I'll
All right.
explain because we're having
No, I
this
believe you.
pedantic debate over it. I'll explain. But
No, that
I
makes
want you to
sense.
be
I
impressed by
actually,
the-
now that I look
I want
at
you to be
it,
impressed by my sub 90 degree angle
now
of my
that I
elbow
look
bend.
at it, it's
Don't
what it
be,
looks like.
You know, and
That's
then
what it
my
actually-
shoulder, like my wonky shoulder goes out. I probably
No, but I
could've
hear you.
rid of
I see it. I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
Well, all I'm saying is
Okay, BGO did it at least, but can you see Brendan's video doing it, please?
I'm not trying to defend like I will go back and do perfectly upright.
No,
But
that I get it. I get it.
The difference in implement. He has a higher back. I like to have the flexibility in my upper back, but that tends to make you lean back a little bit.
Shut up, you fuck. fucking cunt. What are you talking about? Implement my inability to put the back in the backpack. Like what? Lift the weight and shut the fuck up, man. What's this guy fucking talking about? My inability to put the back of the lifter thing. Implementation. Like my word, mate. Apps. These are the kind of people that I ran away from when I went CrossFit. That's why I just go to regular gyms and do my own thing. Like when gym guys start talking to you, yeah, he's got a legit rock hard boner underneath this, isn't it? Watching his people, watching his Instagram. Like honestly, this, like, look, Brendan's falling asleep. Look, this guy's even asleep during freaking BGL's giving his freaking soliloquy on how he does shoulder presses in the gym. Bro, we've all got YouTube. We all know what shoulder presses look like. Like, these guys are fucking rabbiting on about fucking shoulder. Like, my elbow was what? Can we go back and hear him again? Go through that. He was legitimately excited to get on the mic and start talking about that shit. Let's hear him again. My. There's a lot of debate about this.
Look at it. It's what it looks like.
You know,
That's
and then
what
my
it
shoulder, like my walkie shoulder goes out.
No, but I hear you. I see it.
Honestly, it's as simple as like the smile you saw on like Brendan's wife when they went to that funeral fit picture. She was legitimately happy to be outside. Like, yeah, I get to hang out with my husband. Like, we get to have fun. He's not on the road. We get to spend an actual day together. Like, just happy to be out. I know it's a bad circumstance, but happy to be out. The glee in my man's voice when he gets on mic and he's actually gets a chance to talk about stuff that he's actually interested in, instead of topics that he's plucked from Twitter. He's like, yeah, let's go, gym. My implementation on my elbow for the back of the...
I see what you're saying.
Well, all I'm saying is I'm not trying to defend, like, I will go back and do perfectly upright.
No, that I get it. I get it.
The difference in implement. He has a higher back. I like...
What's it? Combo with the wire says, as a weightlifter, using straps is cheating, but Brendan is acting like a fool with everything else, and BGL creeps me out. He definitely has skin in his closet. Gomba, I agree with you. I'm somebody. What's my max at the moment? I've been doing for 5 reps. My max back squat at the moment without a belt is, what is it? The barbell's 20 pounds, right? And the plates are 20. No, the barbell's 20 kg. The plates are 20 kg. So it's 80 kg on the plates. So it's 2 sets of 4 on each, and the barbell, which is what? Is that 120? Am I got my maths right? 80 plus 20, is that 120? No, it's not. It's 100, isn't it? So it's 100 kg. So at the moment, my back squat without a belt is 220 pounds, right? And I do that for 5 sets all the time when I go to the gym, right? All the time. Well, 5 reps of 3 sets. I do that all the time. But I do know that people do use belts. It's fine, whatever it may be, cheating or not cheating. But the fact that I can still do that way is still impressive in its own right, in a weird way. It's not the best thing, but it's still pretty decent. What they're doing is you're just setting a little challenge, just saying, hey, I did this. If you could beat the challenge, the way to respond to it would be like, okay, cool. He did this with wrist wraps. I'm just gonna do it without wrist wraps, without a warm up. I'm just gonna pull up in my car, jump into my friend's Bradley Martin's gym, get some 120-pound dumbbells. Don't even have people rack them up for me. Actually pick them up from the ground and take them up on myself, and then do it, and then show people how really strong you are by able to do those straight away from jumping out of your car with no warm up or no whatever, and just kind of bang out 6. That would be the way to respond to it. Not sitting there and debating about no one cares. We all know what cheat. We all know if you wear flipping weightlifting shoes, if you wear belts, if you wear straps, that it's somewhat cheating because it allows you to kind of get more, torque, right? In terms of how you're basically lifting the weights. It allows you to kind of keep your lumbar spine. We all know. But the fact that he's responding to it the way he's responding to it just shows that he's more worried about picking holes in the guy singing because he's not going to do it and because he feels inadequate, as opposed to him basically wanting to prove that he's stronger.
I like to have the flexibility in my upper back, but that tends to make you lean back a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
I also like doing behind the neck press because that you can't cheat, Yeah. Like, so again, Nick's very strong dude.
Yeah, Nick's very strong.
I'm proud of that lift.
He didn't even say it. BGL said Nick's a very strong dude, clearly. Brendan, he can't even give a compliment. God almighty, mate. This guy is a bigger hater than most people. He's a bigger hater than the entire subreddit. I remember that subreddit exists.
Not comparatively strong, given how big I am, but
I think bench is his big thing.
The behind the neck is so hard on my shoulders.
He tried to on.
Oh, I thought this was exercise one.
That looks really, really good.
You should buy
Because it
Should I?
well, it frames your face.
He hates him. He hasn't even met the guy yet. Look at his face. He hasn't even met the guy in real life. And he fucking despises him. Because he just happens to lift one more weight. Not because... It could be different if the guy was funnier than him or something and people were describing him as like the likable version of Brendan Schaub. I don't know, or something. He legitimately just hates him off the strength that he's able to lift heavy weights. And he happens to be Brian Callen's friend. Like, new friend. Like, what? It's fucking bizarre. I've never seen so much hate in my life in someone's face.
Buckle doesn't. The buckle doesn't fit my chin.
But it's only if you fly an outdoor plane. Only if you fly a plane.
Outdoor plane.
There you go. There you go.
And also, honestly, I'm stopping there. I'm not going to do any more. Imagine sitting down on your podcast and doing this. This is a podcast. They're watching some... The levels of effort in this are just on the all-time low, man. All-time low. Yeah, exactly. Uche says that Schaub has to have CTE. It's the only thing that makes sense of his behavior and general demeanor at this point. Maybe, or maybe it's just... This is just always been. But I can't... Or what he's always been like, I just still can't wrangle with it because I can't wrangle in my head the guy that I used to find funny, who I used to kind of root for, has turned into this person. It just doesn't make any sense. But I think this is a consequence of being successful also in a very short space of time and it being somewhat unwarranted success. That's what basically happens because I also feel like, again, like I always say this all the time, but fucking Joey Diaz was right. Joey Diaz, I remember giving advice to Leah Sayat and basically telling him that I'm not going to bring you around all my friends. I'm not going to have you opening for me all these shows so you can hang out with Bill Burr and Joe Rogan, all these kind of guys. You need to start from the bottom and basically find your own community by going to open mics and stuff and hanging out with those people at your level. Because if you start hanging out with me, you're going to get the impression that you're at my level or that you're at the level of people that are around us and you're going to start thinking you're bigger than what you are or, you know, you're going to, you know, thinking your shits don't smell anymore. And I think that's what happened to Brendan. The moment he got kind of brought into that inner circle, he started going to the up at the comedy store, even though he was only a couple of years into comedy, parking his car in the parking spots there, doing shows with them on, like he was doing stuff that he shouldn't be doing at his level. So clearly his head got, you know, where it meant to go, and you know, maybe the money also helped to it as well, but that might be the reason why, because it still kind of fucks with my head that the guy that I liked has turned into this dude. It's just, I think usually they always, you know, have a sucky part about them if people that you don't like, but I don't think it usually goes from liking someone to going, this feels like my version of flipping Ethan Klein. I feel this, I get sympathy with people who used to like H3 and then it turned into Ethan Klein being the person that he is now. That's why, you know what I mean, it's just the kind of some parallels in there. Ethan was somewhat likable. He was a real champion of YouTube. People used to kind of rally behind him. He used to be someone promoting and kind of championing, you know, causes for like small creators and, you know, really sort of standing up to certain people that he thought were doing bad on the platform, whatever it may be. Then he turned into some weird guy now where he's sort of turning into this kind of vindictive, you know, vicious social justice warrior guy who's always kind of reading the worst intentions ever in everything what people do that he doesn't really kind of, you know, align with politically. It's just a weird way of going about things, man. But what can you do, man? What can you do? I guess it just is a consequence of, you know, living that life, I guess, but it's unfortunate. But yeah, we have no idea whether he's going to accept the challenge. Is he going to do it, yes or not? I doubt it, really. They're still watching videos on people's Instagram accounts. I'm scrolling through. They're still going on videos there. What did he say so far? Did he say anything else about the guy? Let's just scroll through a little bit and see what else they said here. They're still watching videos as I scroll through the flipping, scrubbing through this bar. They're still watching videos, by the way. Let's scroll through here. What's this?
He's so
Terrible
nice
about it.
It's not her fault.
That's a dangerous move. The reason we
Anything?
A betting site, which is
okay. No, nothing. No,
So,
no.
yeah, people hit me up right after.
on World Star.
Yeah.
he's weird
Well,
pulling it
yeah.
this way. So I did, I think, 2.
Okay, I can't. Impossible. I can't spend any more time watching that. Any more time. Impossible. One absolute garbage show this turned into, man. I just can't believe it, man. They legitimately have anything handed to them on a silver platter and they still manage to F it up. But hey, what can you do? What can you do? Oh, you wanna take a walk down memory lane? You remember the last time Will Sasso was on The Fighter and the Kid? The last time. He hasn't been on there since. I saw a clip of him recently on flipping Lex Friedman, where he dressed the same way as him too. It was funny. Pretty good interview to me. Will Sasso's a lot smarter than he kind of makes it seem as on other podcasts. He's really kind of insightful, reflective, funny dude who everyone's kind of rooting for. But the last time he was on the fucking Fire and the Kid was when he kind of went at them for essentially going on the road during the pandemic and touring, and you know, providing entertainment for their fans during the height of the pandemic. This is when we were all scared. We're all scared. We're all wiping down our flipping groceries. We didn't know if we were going to catch it. We didn't know if we were going to spread it to our grandparents and they were going to die. You know, those peak moments of COVID. These guys, most of these TFATK guys decided to go on tour to these different places, do meet and greets, all this sort of baloney because they felt like their comedy was an essential service. Like, fucking bizarre. So Will Sasso appeared via the Zoom or FaceTime link to scold them, and it was pretty decent. I'm not going to lie, very, very decent. And I do miss Will Sasso on the Friday Kid because I thought he was their best guest on there, to be honest. But, you know, ever since what went down with Callan happened, what went down with Chris happened, I feel like he's actively taken the choice to really step away from those guys entirely, which is a shame too, because I think during this time, there were rumors happening that he was going to they were going to restart doing the, what's that thing they're going to do? The 10-minute podcast. They were going to relaunch it, but ever since what happened with Callan, what happened with D'Elia happened, there's no way he's going to sully his brand, because he's a legitimate comedic actor who gets actual roles and gigs. There's no way he's going to flipping ruin that by, you know, standing next to flipping Brian Callan and Chris D'Elia. It just doesn't make any sense, mate. It's probably the worst move anyone could do. So I definitely understand that. So let's get the chat box over on the other side there. And let's continue on with this one.
You read us the riot.
Oh, actually, we got a super chat here with no. Oh yeah, there we go. Super chat with no comment. Courtesy of Daniel, $1.99. I appreciate you, friend. Big up, big up, big up, big up, big up. Thank you so much, Daniel, for the $1.99 super chat. I appreciate you.
And you're accusing us of being un-COVID safe.
Well, you know what, Brian? Here, let me do this. Let me
watch your words, Will.
Yeah, watch your words.
Dude.
I'm sipping 23-year-old whiskey, which has been proven
Cheers,
in
Brian.
a lab to fucking kill COVID in its fucking tracks.
How's that water?
Yeah, why don't you stick a blow dryer in your mouth too? Doesn't that work?
That does work. That
it's
works
up your
too.
nose,
and
Will.
So does going to church.
And then just turn it on. What is it? 40 degrees, 140 degrees?
Yeah,
140.
Yeah, and so does going to fucking church. Keep going.
Hey, Will, if you're scared, go to church.
I wish he wasn't glitchy.
Me too.
I wish you weren't glitchy.
FaceTime, though.
Yeah.
Really, Proven? Where did Proven says Sasso mentioned he wouldn't? He mentioned he recently won't go on TFAT and the TFATK podcast. Really? When did he say that? What podcast did he say that on? He said it. Well, somebody asked him explicitly, would you go on their podcast? He said no. Crazy.
You're wearing a mask now, Kat?
My face is cold. It's not.
You look like Katana.
Brendan grilling Kat because she's wearing a face mask, and her wimping out, pussying out, and basically saying she's wearing it because her face is cold was, I think, when most of the fan base turned against them, especially when they went on tour and they weren't ignoring all the COVID protocols and taking advantage of all the loopholes they could do and the lax basically restrictions, and the fact that most sort of like middle American states were kind of taking COVID as an example, as an opportunity to kind of fight against what they would describe as maybe tyranny or authoritarianism, and not really seeing it just as a virus that they should maybe put some safeguarding, against to kind of protect their populace, whatever it may be. They'd kind of use this opportunity to kind of, politically politic and whatnot. So I think personally, COVID was the worst thing to ever happen to TFATK, because it really did speed up their downfall, maybe reveal who they are, and clearly kind of expose an ugly side of them that people didn't probably see for the most part, especially the side of them like just wanting to tour, wanting to collect as many coins as possible, not giving a fuck about their fans or the fuck about the wider community or the wider world. It was pretty trippy to see, but I think a lot of people got turned off by them. Oh, really? Is that okay? Previn said not clearly mentioned it, but clearly mentioned certain people he stays away from on Segura's podcast. Okay, cool, fair enough.
We lost you, Will. Oh, there you are again.
You know what I'm talking about?
Am I here now?
She's dope.
Yeah, you're here now.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I'm gonna pause on. Uche made a good point there. I never actually thought about that. good point, Uche. It says, I think part of the reason Theo left Cats is because Brendan's drinking got problematic. That makes a lot of sense because Brendan does say, there's a clip that went around where Brendan was laughing and making a joke of it, where he said one day Theo pulled him to one side and said, hey man, I can tell that the drinking's getting serious and it's, you know, it's really kind of an issue. I think you need to have some help and don't worry, I'm here for you and stuff. And Brendan kind of laughed it off thinking, no, I'm perfectly fine. This is an intervention. I drink because I like it, not because I need it or something. You know, he tried to make a joke out of it. But clearly, if Theo's willing, because Theo's not the most, he doesn't really strike me as somebody who is the most confrontational in a way, right? He seems to kind of avoid conflict and whatnot. He seems to be quite a gentle soul. So the fact that he had the courage or plucked up the courage to kind of pull Brendan to one side, somebody he's worked with for a while, so he knows that Brendan is not somebody that responds well to criticism or to kind of suggestions, constructive or not, means a lot. The fact that he was able to do it, so it clearly means he was thinking about it for a long time. So the fact that he did it and said it, and then Brendan dismissed it, is not good. But also, if you're somebody that's in AA and you're in recovery, I'd imagine someone that you kind of would call your, what they call your sponsor, probably would probably tell you not to hang out with somebody, especially the amount of times that they spend around each other, who spends most of their day drinking. It's probably not the smartest thing to do if you're in a recovery, especially with Theo, who's kind of, you know, struggled with his recovery, relapsed a couple of times. You know, he's had a hard time, especially during COVID. He had a hard time kind of, you know, keeping on the straight and narrow. It probably isn't advisable to be hanging out with somebody who legitimately drinks in the morning. That's the thing with Brendan. It's one thing if he was just having a drink when they were doing a podcast, because maybe you could tell him, hey, could you maybe love the drinks in the evening? But this guy's drinking like legit, like, you know, whiskey in the morning, like legitimately. The time when they were doing this podcast in this studio, when he didn't have BGO and he didn't have maybe good assistants to help him, where he's just like have no cups, he just drink the whiskey straight from the bottle. He's sitting there doing a podcast, just chugging back swigs of whiskey on the podcast, like ridiculous.
All right, Brian. You know what? How about this for a fucking capitalist agenda? The more you ignore the lockdown and tell your audience that there's no fucking problem by way of, you know, just kind of going here and there and everywhere. And
but we've never said that, Will.
I'm not saying that.
We're providing entertainment during these tough times.
Yeah, you son of a bitch.
Oh, right. You're providing entertainment because there's not millions of hours of streaming bullshit.
No,
exactly.
No, we're not bullshit,
not
bro. You son of a bitch,
bro.
We are quality news.
Will, you're asking for it, dude.
Hey, and we do fucking current events, which is news.
News.
Can't hear you.
But yeah, another opportunity, another example of why maybe most people are maybe turned off by them being generous people. But Will Sasso definitely called them out. It was funny to see them not really have a reply, and it was also funny that as jokey as this was definitely said in a serious way. And you know, even though what transpired about, you know, Brian being, you know, accused of rape and Chris Lear being accused of flipping touching underage girls, clearly, you know, Will didn't really make any effort to rejoin them. Do you know what I mean? He just kind of stayed in his own lane and did his own thing, did his movies, did his shows, and now that he's on the podcast circuit, promoting himself a bit now, he still hasn't made any effort to reconnect with them. So clearly, it's proof that that tension that we saw kind of was real. 100% was real, because, you know, he hasn't made any effort to go back on that show in the slightest. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Another one to mention here, I think that might be interesting. What I wanted to talk about was that one. We talked about the Tiger Whiskey thing already, haven't we? We spoke about the rollerblades. We spoke about him saying pulling on the flipping tail thing, the lion weird comment, and I think that might be it. And I think so. Oh, the last one I want to talk about quickly, I think this might be it. Where is it? Yeah, let's quickly talk about this. This might be cool. So have you guys seen this flipping, I want to watch a bit of this anyway. Have you seen this? Have you seen this this flipping documentary? Okay, Proven, yeah, right time to bounce there. Yeah, take care, easy, chatting, good laughing. Yeah, cool, mate. Take care, what you call it, Proven. Always a pleasure to see you, mate. Thanks for hanging out. But have you guys checked this out? Because I think I'm gonna, because it's quite long, it's like 20 minutes each, right? Yeah, I think I'm going to save this for the next podcast. But if you haven't already checked it out for the next stream, if you haven't already checked this out, please do. I'm going to put this up on the stream. But definitely check this out, right? It's called Kalila Kuhn, the most sadistic woman in comedy. It's a part 2 and a part 1. And I'm going to stream this next time that I do a live stream with a random show, right? Which will be hopefully very soon. So if you haven't checked it out already, please do check it out and watch it. I do recommend it. And we're going to check, or maybe if you want to wait for me to watch it and watch it together, we can. But I'm definitely going to watch this next and do this because I finally come around to the idea that maybe some of these people that were in my chat spamming it and saying Kalila is a bit of an evil person and I shouldn't believe everything that happened in the whole fallout with Brendan and there was more to the story, blah, blah, blah. I'm now believing it. I'm now believing the alternate version of that. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that Brendan's kind of excused for his behavior, but the fact that she was painting out to be some damsel in distress that could do no wrong, that is not the case, my friends. That is not the case, unfortunately. That is not the case. So that documentary is really good. I've not watched it all. I've watched kind of bits and pieces of it. So I want to sit down and watch it properly when I've got time. So definitely make sure if you're around tomorrow to check out the show. I'm definitely going to do another one. And I'm going to kind of go through the entire thing and we're going to watch everything of it because god damn it, there's some really weird and interesting parts about it in the long run. If anything, it makes Bobby look better because it makes him look like the ultimate victim. Like he's just been, you know, I wouldn't say cucked, but he's just been the ultimate victim in this entire thing. So if you really want to check it out, you can check it out yourself if you want to. If you want to watch it together, we can. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do next time around on this one. But yeah, 2 hours in. I'm going to end it now because I've got to, sleep and whatnot. So thanks so much for tuning in, my friends and family. It's been a quality time with all you guys. As per usual, if it's your first time checking out this show and you like what you heard, then make sure that you're smashing that like button, please. That'd be greatly appreciated. Smash that like button for me. Help the kid out. And if you want to come back on the channel and check out my other stuff, then obviously make sure you subscribe as well. That'd be greatly appreciated. And you could check out all the other stuff connected with me regarding the stuff that I do in terms of other podcasts, I'm App AgostinhoZinga show and whatnot. You can check that out as well via the links in the description. And I will have some clips out, I will have some clips out in 24 hours regarding this one. And I also do some timestamp within the next day too, so you can check that out also. But yeah, big up everybody in the chat. Big up Space K Walter. Big up MKRCIVOJ. Yeah, end of the cliffhanger. Yes, cliffhanger for sure. Big up the DXJ, big up Drinking with Cats, big up Uche, of course, big up Proben, who was here earlier, big up Ray Chan Join, loads of people, all the regulars that always come out, big up Christian French, sorry, big up Luke Baker, big up Caleb Spencer, big up everybody that was here in the chat. Honestly, all of you guys have been absolutely amazing for hanging out and tuning in. I really do appreciate you as per usual. And I'll see you guys again very, very soon. But thanks again for tuning in. Really do appreciate you as per usual. Please take care of yourselves and I'll take care of you when you're back here. Peace.